Hey everyone. So I call this the policy plus energy show because it's my policy background with my dear friend Naomi's energy. So this is the first show and I'm really glad to have her joining us today. So and make sure to like the videos, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Ooh, hold on. And then and then you're gonna see Naomi's information down at the bottom, so make sure to subscribe to her channel too. We're going to start with introduction. So I am Doug MPA. I'm 42 years old. I have two policy degrees. That's where MPA comes from. So I'm all about facts, figures, data, stats, all this stuff like that. Um, and I've been consuming red pill content since 2016. I'm one of those people where married, divorced, red pill. Who hurt you? Yeah, all of us have had someone hurt us. You know what I'm saying? I'm 42 years old. I'm one of those 6 foot tall, six-figure guys, not married, no children, and I wanted to do this show because uh, no single mothers over here, guys. No single
Well,
mothers. If you're a man with no children, you shouldn't date a woman with children. And if you're a woman with no children, don't date a man with children. Let the people with kids date each other. So uh, that's a little bit about me. Go ahead, Naomi. You're on mute. Go ahead.
hi, I'm Naomi. I am 36. I am a fully fledged single mother of two. One was by choice, the other one, I guess, also by choice as well. Um, I have only just stepped into this red pill space last year, October. So I'm very new to this space, but I've definitely learned so much. And I've grown so much in my perspective and my opinion, even on holding myself accountable for the choices that I've made in the past. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about myself.
Okay. So I first saw Naomi, on a couple of different podcasts, and we connected because she was on a couple of different IG shows. She was on the Mandem's Voice. She has her own uh, IG, and we just connected offline. And Naomi has a very good perspective. I'm from Washington State, so you remind me of someone from my hometown in Washington State, one of the kind of energy chakra types. So I'm one of those grounded people, and it's always good to bounce my perspective off of someone that's kind of up in the clouds, but in a good way.
Yeah, I definitely reside in the clouds for sure.
but but it, it's a good thing though. You can have your feet on the ground all the time.
Hmm.
So, I have, this show is called "What Are Single Mothers by Choice?" And once again, thanks for joining us, everyone. Um, so I'm gonna start this out with, women in 2023 have more financial, occupational, and social opportunities in the West than any other time in history. While it can be argued that there is still a ways to go, it can be argued most women can now pursue any professional or a personal goal that they choose. So a woman takes her life by the horns, gets her degrees, finds her passion, moves up the corporate ladder, and achieves all of her goals outside of her personal life. She finds herself in her late 30s, early 40s with no husband, no kids, and the biological clock ticking down. What is she to do? So, before we get in that, I'm going to share um, this is what. Ooh, ooh, 1 second. Ooh. So this is what initially brought me to this subject. You guys ready? Yeah. So this is what your future's looking like if you do the single mom by choice
Single
plan.
women are no longer waiting for Mr. Right to choose to have a
Can you
baby.
hear it okay?
IVF has made
Yeah.
that possible, and apparently more moms are choosing to go that route. Joining us to discuss is Dan Romano, host of Windy City Natty. Good morning to you. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Now, we have a lot to talk about, but let's just start with this. What kind of proof do we have that more women are actually making this choice on their own?
It was so surprising to me during the pandemic. I remember reading an article in the Wall Street Journal that said so many women were going to freeze their eggs now because of the pandemic and thinking, oh my gosh, dating is so hard and I'm getting so much older. And I had already decided I was going to do this before the pandemic. I'm 35.
She had already decided she was gonna do this already. Oh, hold on.
But I'm 35 now, and I couldn't imagine of waiting till now to have children. Like,
Yeah, yep.
my brain can't process not having children all this time and then being like, like I can understand why they're like, because nobody's looking at you to have a
Yeah.
baby.
Let's keep going.
And had made a promise to myself at 30 that I would freeze my eggs and consider having a baby on my own at 35. So I've halfway made good on that promise. I've gone through 2 rounds of egg retrievals and have fertilized eggs. Actually, I have 4 embryos on ice, 2 girls and 2 boys waiting for me.
Okay, so
Did you hear all that?
Wow,
Did you hear that?
it's so clinical.
Yeah. Let's get through this.
let's talk about why women are making this choice.
Yeah, let's.
I believe that dating is very different than it used to be. At least this is what everyone says. Oh, times have changed. And you know what? I feel that very much at 35, that dating is so much harder than I ever thought it would be. And when I started
It's called that wall.
considering being a single mom by choice, I was like, how weird is that to go to a sperm bank and pick out a man? It was just so bizarre. And then I started looking at the profiles and I thought, my gosh, these are such generous men, such wonderful values. And it started to be a little bit more real to me, and it started to be something that felt doable. And I believe that when I look at these other women who are single mothers by choice, and I've been connected with so many of them through my fertility clinic, I see the same story. It's that, you know, we know that we can't control certain things in our lives. I can't control that I'll fall in love or get married, but I can control whether or not I become a mom. And that's one thing that we all
You hear all this accountability being shucked off? It's ridiculous.
really
So
want. And that's the one
is she
thing that
does she have
Go ahead.
an IVF clinic herself? Is that what she was just saying?
Yes, because she's gonna get through the rest of it. I set the pause every once in a while because I don't know if Fox News is gonna flag. So
we're all trying to accomplish.
Okay, let's be honest here. IVF is not easy. I mean, it's very, very hard to go through. I went through it twice when I was married to have my 2 wonderful daughters who are now grown adult women. But I have to tell you, it was very stressful. So I don't want to lead people astray. This is a tough choice to make, is it not?
Very tough choice. My body has been through a lot. I'm exhausted from it. You know, your body is full of so many hormones and your emotions are everywhere. And it's definitely a tough journey. But the thing about it, and I always say, is you kind of feel like you give up your body to science for a while, but you feel like the cause is the thing that keeps motivating you. The end game is what's worth it. And you think to yourself, I can put myself through this because what I want, it's, you know, far supersedes how uncomfortable I'm going
did you hear that, Naomi? What I want. Let's keep going.
to be. But you need a village. You need people around you that are going to support you and love you and hold you through it, because IVF can feel very, very lonely, even if you have a ton of people around you, because it's you and your body and you can't control what it's doing as much as you want. So for those of you that are going through IVF and those of you that know people going through IVF, you know, put your arms around those people, because they definitely are feeling a lot of different things. And the only thing that they need right now is that you just sit there and listen and understand you don't have to fix anything, just be there.
Okay, where are you currently in the process?
I am currently getting ready to do the embryo transfer. So my body is going through the preparation phase right now. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling in good spirits about it, but it's starting to get very real. You know, I kind of walk around my house and think, oh man, you know, I'm going to be doing this on my own, but I do have an amazing village. And so I don't feel like I'm going to be alone. But getting ready to start that process and a whole new round of IVF drugs that I haven't been on before, because they're different from the egg retrieval drugs. It's definitely overwhelming. But again, the end game is what's worth it. So I'm feeling good and feeling positive. But I feel like, you know, you're always just trying to get your body and your mind in the right place. It really is a mental game.
Well, Florence Ann Romano.
And they'd rather do this than find a man. Okay, so let Let me
Crazy. Where she said, "Oh, it takes a village," but I have a village. I always have had a village, but there's nothing more lonely than being in a house with a child on your own. Your village isn't in your house every day.
Well, yeah, but because we're gonna get into that later because a lot of these women they say, "Oh, I found these online groups of single moms by choice." Yeah, but those women aren't gonna be in your house with you helping you change diapers or watching the kid when you get sick and have to go to the doctor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's been times when I've been. I remember when I went to Milan and came back, and I had food poisoning. My sister had helped look after my children whilst I was away, and I literally could not get out of bed. My daughter ended up having to help me so much, and so it wasn't even fair on her having to help me because I in London I didn't have as many people like immediately around me, and also I was really sick and it was contagious, so nobody wanted to come into my house. So yeah, it's not as it's not
An ideal situation.
it's not as glamorous as they're making out. Oh yeah, let's
So
just make a baby, lab baby.
I'm gonna continue. It says, so a, a growing group of women facing the situation decided to become single mothers by choice. Okay, single mothers by choice can be defined as a woman who chooses to have a child knowing she will be their sole provider. No co-parenting, no child support, no father, no nothing.
Mm.
Single Mothers by Choice was first officially started as a group in New York City back in 1981. Interesting fact. Jane Mattis, a Manhattan psychotherapist, because of course, psychotherapist, and one of the founding members of the group said the biological time clock was ticking and the idea of life without a child was unthinkable to me. Having a child was part of my value system because life without intimacy doesn't allow you to grow. That's when she got inseminated with her first child by herself back in 1981. So before we get, I'm just going to lay a bunch of statistics down. I'm a quick fire 'em real quick. In the United States in 2022, there were 10,889,000 single parent families, and 80% of those are headed by single mothers. 23.4% of those households are living under the poverty line. The poverty line of a family of four is $26,000 a year. 29% of these households were jobless the entire year, 30% of them. Okay. 24.3% of these households were food insecure, as in had to skip the meals to pay the bills. Okay. 51.4% were never married. These are single mothers. 29.3% were divorced, and 19.2% were separated or widowed. 22.4% of these households will receive unemployment benefits. The average income for a single parent household is this is for men and women. All of them were $51,168. 62% of single mothers receive TANF, which is food stamps. I don't know if you guys know about food stamps in the UK. That's where they give you the card and you can buy the food. And then 11% of those households receive cash assistance. Now in the UK, 3.9 million children are living in poverty in the UK, or 8 out of every 30 students in the classroom. And 3.1 million of those children are living in single mother homes, about 80% of them, right? The average age of a single parent in the UK is 39 years old. 25% of those families with dependent children are headed by 25% of families with dependent children in the UK are headed by single parents, but 90% of those homes are headed by single mothers. 49% of families, of single parent families, live in poverty, and 60% of those families live in food insecurity have to skip meals to pay bills. Okay. And then I have one more. I'm going to say single mother by choice stats. Almost 80% of single mothers are between the ages of 36 and 45. Okay.
And there's the ones that have chosen.
Yes, that are single mothers by choice. Okay. 61% use artificial insemination, and the majority of the rest of them use IVF and other means. And then listen to this: 1 out of 10 single mothers by choice already have one child. Okay. So I'm going to say my stance on this whole thing, and then please say yours. I'm going to say, okay, going into single parenthood as a single parent in the modern times is the most selfish thing a woman can do, in my opinion. There's no bigger red flag. And also, I'm gonna add to my little script here. If you choose to have a child when you're 35, you are signing up to be single for the rest of your life, in my opinion. But that's just me. The only exception is adoption from a life-threatening situation. Like, so, if a child is born in a situation where the parents are drug addicts or whatever, I can see that. But come on. Knowing the statistical disadvantage of raising a child in a single parent household, there's no reason why a woman or a man should choose to do this. Focus on finding a significant other and get married first. And one last thing, and you can tell me what you think about this after you say your stance. If you can't get along with an adult, what makes you think you can raise a child? A serious relationship should be a practice for the rigors of parenting. If you can't get along with adults, what makes you think that you're going to be able to get along with a child? Naomi, what do you think?
Well, I wouldn't liken it to getting along with an adult that they've been programmed by somebody else. Obviously, getting along with your children and getting along with another adult is two completely different. Like, they're not comparables in my mind. I get on my children perfectly. There's some adults that I don't get along with, quite obviously, because I'm a single parent. So I wouldn't even use them as comparables.
Okay.
Choosing to be a single mother at 35, like, the amount of research that they would have done, they have the awareness and the ability to understand what they're doing to their child. Like, when I chose my daughter, because my daughter's father told me to choose between him and her, and I wasn't going to get rid of my child, so I got rid of him. I was 16. Like, I had no clue what I was signing up to, choosing. Like, and so on one hand, it's like I can use that as an excuse now that I'm an adult, but at the same time, it's not an excuse. But as a 35-year-old woman, which I am now, like, how could I, as you said, be that selfish to bring a child knowing that they're going to be at every statistical disadvantage just because I'm lonely, because I didn't work on myself enough to be able to cohabit with another human being?
Okay. Okay. I just want to clarify. So, do you think that at least? So, do you think that because the only reason why I would say being with an adult will get you ready is living with someone gets you ready with having someone else in your space. You
Mm.
know, you know, uh, eh, on a basic level, having to share, having to figure out your resources in the house, having to learn how to be around someone, how to divide space, how to divide tasks. You know what I'm saying?
But your
And
body as a woman prepares you for you have to share your body with this human being. So yeah, I think um, nature gets you ready in the sense of sharing with your child. You then don't have, like, so many changes happen to you when you get pregnant, when you give birth. Like, everything that you were once selfish about, you're no longer selfish about when this small human is in front of you and needs your undivided attention. Like, like, moving in, if me and you moved in tomorrow, there's no preparation for that. There's just like, now I live with somebody who already has his own mind, has his own, this small human is just there and needs your undivided attention, and your body and your mind has been prepared for it by nature.
by the way, yeah, I I don't know if I can agree with that because you see it. I don't know, like women, like baby fever is a real thing, man. And like women, I've seen a lot of women where they just want to have a child, and then they didn't really think about, like you say, it gets them ready, but they didn't really think about the ramifications of it. I.e., I think these single mothers by choice, they really should have a conversation with the people, like your village, before you do this, because a
Yeah.
lot of single mothers, when they're deciding to do it, whether by circumstance or by choice, they really haven't had that conversation. Like, are you guys ready to help in a way that I feel is necessary for you to help? Because I think if you have a brother, or no, if you have a sister or one of your friends who chooses to be a single mom and she wants you to be part of her village, you should be able to say no. Say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to help you take care. of this child.
but
I've done
but
it before. I've had friends that try to call me up, and I'm sorry, this number has been disconnected. Heck no.
But what I will say is, just because my body got me ready to be a single mother, well, not be a single mother, to be a mother, and like care for this human like unconditionally, it didn't remove the loneliness, the the moments of regret, um, the the struggle that came along with being a single mother. It didn't remove that, but my unconditional love for this child and both of my children overrode the elements where I was miserable. But because I made that choice, so I can't blame
But
anybody, can I?
but my postpartum depression. No, I'm just playing. Anyway,
No, don't do that. Don't do that's a
I'm,
real thing. That's a
I'm
real
so
thing.
messed up. No, no, no.
Don't
It's just
do that. That's a
no.
that
It,
is
but
hormonally when you get pregnant, you're crazy. Like you are like two different people, and especially when you've given birth, you're then all of a sudden, like you've got this, like I said, you've got this human. I was blessed. I didn't get it with either of mine. I was blessed because it was just me on my own. So probably the
well,
God was like, "I'm gonna protect you, Naomi. I'll
it's
give
just
you that one."
for me. Women they just get obsessed with having this thing without thinking. See, men we're cost benefit calculators. Okay,
Mm,
we men, when a pregnancy happens, men work more hours, women work less. Okay,
well,
because
we have
men
to.
we see past when the baby's born, but women don't, and too many women in the modern age. I didn't realize it was so hard. Well, ask that guy that ducked out on you, or that how hard it would have been. That's probably why he left. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna do a disclaimer. I should have said this at the beginning. I'm passionate about this subject, so if I get hype, only because I'm gonna get to this later on in the show. But I have actually gone out on dates with women, Naomi, that say they're in their late 20s, mid or early 30s, and they say, if I don't have a kid by the time I'm 35, I'm going to do it on my own. And they
No,
say this to you like dating. Like, is that supposed to make you look any better in my eyes?
if I
Like,
didn't
what is
have
that?
my, I just wouldn't have ever had them. Like if I hadn't, like if it hadn't have happened the way it did, and I got to 35 and I didn't have any, I just wouldn't have had them. I
Mm.
just like I, I couldn't even imagine going through all of that to get a baby, like, and then do it on your own.
Let me tell you the no kids life is pretty good. Hashtag no kids life. No kids gang. All right.
But
So
I will say, for a woman, like I've got friends who are older than me who have no children, and I just see like it, they have lots of money, they have a beautiful life, but for me, I wouldn't trade it.
yeah, I can see that. Especially for women, women's life goals and men's life goals are different. So, I want to see what I prescribe to, 80% of women would be happier with, a family and children. I honestly believe that. And honestly, you're honest. I think that you are better off having your kids young than
Mm.
being on the other side and being 45 and wishing that you would have had kids and you can't.
100%.
So,
I'm glad that I had mine young, because I'm like 35. My youngest is 10. In 5 years' time, when I'm 40, I'm done. Like I've done it. I've done like my main task of life. I've done with success, I feel, and so yeah, I feel accomplished.
okay. So question for you, Naomi.
Mhm.
Have you heard of this phenomenon before? And what was your initial impression when I approached you with the idea for this show? Like, what was your initial impression of it?
Well, I can see both sides in the sense that I know how it feels to be a mother. Um, but at the same time, I also see the ramifications on that child of having an absent father. So it's like all these, like you said, they've been in their masculine energy. They've chosen to compete with men for all these years. They've then got to a point where it's like, oh, I'm not going to be able, because masculine attracts feminine. So you're not, unless they end up with a feminine man, they're not going to meet the type of guy that they probably want. And now they're just going to go and do it in a test tube. Obviously, the science is there, and I think it's absolutely amazing for women who
Testing.
a test tube baby.
Mhm.
It's fantastic for women that can't have children. And they're in a relationship, they're in a marriage. That's fantastic. But for women to just go and purposefully make a baby, that child, you don't even know this man either. You don't know what his energy was like what is it like when you get, at least I know the energy of the people that I laid in bed with. Like, at least I, they don't know anything except they've got brown eyes, blue hair, whatever color hair. Like, they don't know anything about them. Like, what do you know about them? You don't know anything about their parents, their grandparents, their other children. They could have brothers and sisters. It's too much for me in the spiritual sense, that you don't know enough about this person spiritually either. And then this child, when they come to you and ask you questions, oh, I don't know, I read him on a piece of paper. Okay.
Could you
at,
imagine?
at least I can tell my daughter, as much as her father isn't in her life, I know so much about her dad that I can tell her everything she needs to know.
Okay. Okay.
And so, and the same with my son. Well, my son's dad's in his life very much, so um I think for somebody to feel whole in their identity, they need to know both parts of themselves. And so there's always you're creating a wound in this child intentionally.
I agree 100%. I agree. D- Do you see this in the UK at all, or have you had conversations with women about doing something like this?
No, I don't know. Maybe no, I've never heard of any, because women can
Ever?
have that. No, because, well, everybody that I know can go and have sex. So I'm like I don't know anybody. If the women that are older, they just don't want children, and so they just haven't had any, and they're like, well, it hasn't happened, I'm not bothered, I'm just not going to have any. I've never heard of a woman who I know. I've heard of women struggling to get pregnant, and then their partners have gone and with them and had a baby, but not test tube babies on their own. Mm-mm.
Okay. Um, and then I think we went over, if you didn't have children now and you were 35 with no children, is this something that you would consider? You said no, right?
No, for what to do? I would have sense by the time I'm 35. Um, I don't like, even if I was to have a child now, because my womb is still working. It's good. Uh, I've got a womb. It's working, and I know that people think that I've hit the wall, but I think genetically I'm good. Um, and but there's no way that I would have a child without the father. But like, it's just no, because I know how much it takes, and especially, you said women that have already got one child will go and then do a test tube baby.
Hmm.
Like, I couldn't even imagine that. How hard it is already. Why would you then want to add more? Unless they've got loads of money and they can have nannies and like night nannies, and maybe that's what they do.
Make That by Logic has a good question. You said, "What's the point of a woman that doesn't want kids? I don't get it. Her existence is useless. What's she gonna do? Invent a better cookie?" What do you
What did
think?
you? What was that? What's the point in? I
He
don't get
says,
it.
"Make That by Logic asks, what is the point of a woman that doesn't want kids?" Then he says, "I don't get it. Her existence is useless. What's she gonna do? Invent a better cookie?"
Well, I think it's more that they've either, the women that I know, they've gone through losses of children and whatever, and they've got to a certain age and it's just not happened for them. So they're like, okay, it's just not meant to be. I will just continue with my career and be okay with how it's turned out.
Mhm.
And maybe they will invent a better cookie. I bet it'll taste
There's
good.
always better cookies, right?
Always
So,
better cookies.
okay. What would you say to a woman who was 25, so maybe had just graduated university or uni, as you Brits like to call it, and was charting out her life and came to you for advice, like it came on your show and
Hmm.
said, "Hey, Naomi, I have my career, I'm going for my career, I'm this and whatever. And then if I don't find a significant other, but by the time I'm 35, I'm just going to freeze my eggs and do it by myself." How would that conversation go? Like, how would you approach that with a 25-year-old woman?
I would ask her why she's putting so much emphasis on her career if being a mother is her end goal. That would be my first question. Like, why is the emphasis on your career if being a mother is your end goal? It takes two beings to make a baby. Why wouldn't more of your energy be going into finding that person and being the right person to be a mother?
Okay.
That would be the angle that I would go, because why are you spending so much time focusing on your career if you want to be a mother? You're not going to be. Most women, once they've had a baby, don't want to go back to work. I know I didn't. So
Well,
what's the point?
but 'cause you were in the military, correct?
Yeah, so I wasn't. So when I first found out I was pregnant with my daughter, I was in basic training. So I was 16. They told me that I couldn't stay in the military. I had to either leave or have an abortion. So I left. And then when my daughter was 1, I rejoined. The biggest mistake. Oh, so it wasn't the biggest mistake, but at the same time, it wasn't the best thing for my child, because she basically lived with my mum. Um, Between me and my mum, she lived, depending on whether I was away on tour and stuff like that. So I just turned into the man, basically, and my mum was the mother for my
Okay.
daughter's early
So,
years.
if someone were to ask you, like, what's the difference between the two? Like, how would you map out the difference between like the mom and a mother? So, for all this village talk, like, oh, you have to have a village. This can be for the women who have like a high paced career, and their child is like at daycare or at their grandma's house all the time. So, map out what the mom is and the mother. Map that out.
So when a child is taken away from their primary caregiver, which is the mother, that's the first bond that they make when they first come out the womb. Every time the child then has to bond with somebody else for long periods of time, you then break that mother bond. So my daughter, I had to leave her for like 14 weeks. By the time I came back, she was like, "Who the hell are you?" And so
Wow.
literally, like, I remember walking into the house and I started crying because she looked at me as if, "Who are you?" Because she was 1 when I left, and obviously 14 weeks away. She then got used to, I can't depend on this woman who is my mother. I can't depend on her. So what I will do is put my guard up and internalize it. And that's why she's got this anxious attachment style, because she couldn't rely on me to always be there. And so, as much as it's, yeah, great, my mum was there, my mum isn't her mother. My mum is the grandmother, so she should have been there maybe to help out, but not as the primary caregiver, because she couldn't give her what she needed, which was what my presence was needed. Um, yeah. So yes, it takes a village, but that's like for babysitting, and like, if you need a break and you just need to nap, or it's tiring having a baby or a toddler.
Yeah,
Um, but
I would
yeah.
imagine. I would imagine. Miktab Logic says, a woman assuming her fertility will hold out is the height of hubris. You know what hubris is, right?
No.
Hubris is like thinking that you know what the heck you're talking about. It's just it's it's a lot of misplaced like pride.
Hmm.
Like, what do you think about that? So like, a woman assuming that her fertility is going to hold out for forever is the height of like thinking that they know what's going on or having too much pride
Yeah.
in the area. What do you think about that?
Um, well, we don't know what we don't know, do we? And so, like, what we do know is that as you get older, your fertility goes down. So I'm a bit confused why people would be wrong and strong in that element. Like, that as you get older, it gets harder So why would you hold out?
Hubris is excessive pride or self-confidence. Thanks, Max Power.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. What is this person saying in the comments about how does this person know that I'm good, that I'm healthy? How does
They
this
said that.
person know that I'm healthy?
Yeah, mindset said that Naomi has time. I can vouch for it.
How?
She's healthy. Come on, guys, knock it off.
Is
I think mindset's part of your fan club too. So
isn't mindset the one that's always in
on Instagram,
China's?
yeah, that's him.
I thought so. I mean, I don't know if he's a fan. That's for sure. I don't know if he's a fan, but I mean,
So hey guys, I'm gonna do story time now. And let me know in the chat, guys, how would a conversation with you, if a woman were to tell you that they were going to go through this, or if they had, okay, I don't know why you'd be on a date with a single mom in the first place, but does your, okay, let's consider single moms for a second.
So you wouldn't
Would
go on a
your
date with me, Doug? Is that what you're saying?
sorry, no. If you a woman having a child, because they say that a woman being divorced because she had her child in wedlock is different from a woman that had a child outside of marriage. But is there a third? Could this add a third factor where not only is a woman a single mother, but she chose to do it by herself? Does that lower her value any more than than just being out there?
So do they go down in the pecking order, like underneath single mothers?
So maybe it would go, you had your children in a marriage, then under that would be a baby mama, and then under that would be being a single mother by choice.
I am not a baby mama, okay?
She rejects that term.
And rejects it.
So tell me what you think, because you already know my opinion. Like, if you choose to put yourself in this position, like, you're automatically disqualified. Let's say I were to consider single mothers. Like, if you did this by yourself and your child's never gonna know his father, any of that, you're out. Like, it would take all I have to, like, not. I don't try to judge people. I'm not gonna lie, I do judge people on their life choices.
I'm thinking, who are you trying to lie to right now, Doug?
Okay, you got me. But if I were at dinner with a woman who was a single mother by choice, and that were to come up, like, it would be hard for me to not see my position on it. I'd be like, what? I would literally ask her, what the heck were you thinking? Why would you do that? And I'd sit there like this, waiting for an answer. I'd be waiting for, like, how would you think that? There's no way that.
Oh my God.
That conversation will go well. And this story time, Naomi. So I went out with this girl. She was 29 years old, and I was 37. And she was Ivy League educated. And she is one of those really kind of masculine type that was trying to tone back her masculinity and fall into her femininity. Red flag, guys. If a woman says she's falling into her femininity or wants to become soft, run the other way. So we got to the point where we dated for about 90 days. We got to the point where we were smashing, and she had birth control, and we had tested or whatever, and we were so she said
you were barebacking.
I mean, all the precautions were taken. And she said, we've been dating for about 4 months. And she said, hey, I always tell myself by the time I'm 30, I'm going to have a child. So, I'm going to take my birth control out and get inseminated. And I'm like, huh? Like, because I had never heard of anything like that. I'm like, what? So 2 more months go by. And she's talking about it, about once a week or twice a week or whatever. And I'm like, whatever. Well, one day I came over and we're like about to, and she's like, hey, you need to use protection. I'm like, okay, like, why? She's like, because I took my IUD out because, I'm going to get my body ready to get inseminated. And I'm like, what? Like, we were dating.
What? So she was going to get seminated by someone else's semen?
Yeah, and she's like, "Look, so if we're gonna be together, like I need you to be okay with being a stepfather to like my
Why wouldn't she
inseminated
ask you
child."
to just have sex? Like, why wouldn't she? What? Why wouldn't she ask you
Naomi,
to have?
this is the circus that I'm living here in the United States. I
What?
keep telling you.
Why would she has a man with semen? Why would she ask? Why would she be putting some stranger's semen inside of her when
So
she has? Yeah.
not only that, but because she had like a group of women who were because she had a group of women that were in relationships or married, and they were talking about having kids, and she was like single by herself. So she wanted to participate in the conversation, and there's all these women were gassing her up like, "You should do it, then we can all." But she was single. Well, I mean, we were dating, we weren't in like a relationship or whatever, and so, but I had to break up with her. I was like, I can't. This is the route you want to take, like you don't even want us to get to know each other and, like, get serious maybe or whatever, and it's funny because, I don't have any children and nor do I want any, but we didn't even get to the point where we were gonna have a conversation,
Oh, you don't
and,
want children.
I mean, I'm 42 right now, like, I just the 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 laws here are just too great, like, being the worst mistake a man can make is have a child with the wrong woman because that woman can ruin your life and use that child as
Mm.
a weapon against you. And it's not that every woman would; it's every woman can. That's the
Mm.
problem. So you can't lose at a losing game if you never play it. So the if I were the scenario to which I would have children is impossible because of all the current laws. It's just in the United States, and the heck no.
So
So
would you not move to have a baby?
I don't know, man. It just right now, I just say no because it's the safer bet, and I just I'm living my life
I
as
just
such.
think
Let's
every
just put it
man
that way.
should get the chance to be a father. I
Yeah,
just think,
I always said
mm,
the
that's what-
the the worst part about having kids right now is that you have to have a child with a modern woman.
wow. I'm sure there's some out there that are not terrible.
Mhm. So, but yeah, and so around here in the area I live, I've gone out on dates with at least 3 or 4 different women that have said, "If I don't have a child by the time I'm 35, I'm gonna do it by myself." What how do you think men should navigate, like, how am I gonna even put this here? Because I think that's an automatic red flag. Like, what would make a help me understand the woman's pathology behind that. Like, why would that
You mean doing it on their own?
Yes. Like, how is what would possess a woman to even have that as an option now? Like, if I don't find a man by the time I'm 35, I could just go do it by myself. Like, how did that become a thing? Like, what?
Well, I
I'm
think it's
still at
the
a loss even saying it.
I think it's the same thing that like I had in my mind that I could do it by myself. I never thought of it as a big thing that I was going to be a mother to a child on my own. I literally didn't have that thought because I'd seen my mum do it. I'd seen plenty of women, like most of my friends' mums were single mothers. So it was like, well, they can do it, I can do it too. So I think because there's so many because it's glorified, it's made to look easy, it's made to look like it's something that, oh well, you don't need a man to do that. Then especially if you've got money, then if you've got money, like where's the stress? But they're not thinking of the child, they're thinking of themselves. And so um your body starts to make you yearn for that thing that you're meant to be doing, which is nurturing, looking after something, somebody. That's why women get cats and dogs, because it's so powerful and so over. Like when my son got to 8, I could feel it already going off. I was like, yo, 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 nope, you can stop that right now. I was looking at everyone's babies and my friends' babies, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. But I had to like switch it in my head, like, no, you do not need no more babies. So I can get it if you don't have any, and then you have this biological feeling that like I need to nurture. Um, yeah, I can understand from that point of view, but at the same time, I know what the
Well,
implications for the child is.
well, AJ's Red and Rave says women don't want to cooperate with a man and be held to any expectations, so they want kids alone. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely easier sometimes.
Nice and
I
simple.
I can't lie. Like, especially recognize noticing that, because obviously with my daughter I did it completely on my own. With my son's
Well,
dad. Hmm?
plus your village, right? Let's not,
Well,
you know.
yeah, I mean, not really, because I was still freaking lonely and did 99.9% of it on my own. Um, in the sense of she was still always just my responsibility. Like, if anything happens, they're not gonna call, there's nobody else to call. There's just me. And so, but with my son, his dad. So now, and also when we broke up, we were both quite hurt with each other, and so you now have to cooperate and, like, ask this other person who you don't really like at the moment. Is it? I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna. It was a very long growth space that I had to be in, that my ego had to get put to one side and learn how to cooperate and learn how to communicate effectively and learn that not everything is done my way, because with Aisha everything was done my way, so it was easy. Oh, well, yeah, we'll do this the way, do it this way. With my son's dad, and especially as a boy, like now I ask him, like, it's his responsibility. I'm like, okay, this one's yours. I'm like, "Well, he's past 8 now. I don't want to do it."
Okay, okay. Yeah, I've seen I've seen on your Instagram your son and your daughter that they actually look like really good kids. So
Thank you.
bravo to you on that. You do a good job, and you make good babies, Naomi.
I do. I do. I do. I really do. I'm not like giving myself. I
She's like, I don't
really
want
do.
to toot my own horn or anything.
But I mean, I do. I love baby. I literally love babies. Love babies so much. It was definitely my purpose. I couldn't imagine being, like, in a corporate job where I'm just working for somebody and not nurturing. It's just, yeah.
You
I,
know what's funny about people that say that? Because my brother and I we used to run a mentorship group for young African American and African immigrant men in my area for the last 3 years or so. I've kind of had to step back, but I used to tell my guys that I would mentor. I'd say, "Hey, this year I couldn't imagine, the young ones. I couldn't imagine working an office job. If you saw my paycheck, you
not.
would be able to work an office
I
job."
wouldn't. I really wouldn't. Maybe for
Yeah.
boys, like for me, I'm really not driven by money. Like, as I've got older, I reckon, because I've tried. I've been HR. I could have done corporate jobs, like, especially with my military experience and all this stuff. But when I can work probably in an office for a maximum of a month, and then I'm like, I cannot be in this space. I don't care how much money you're going to pay me.
Mm.
I just, I don't
Office
feel
jobs.
fulfilled. I don't feel
They
fulfilled by it.
don't have the right energy and
Not
chakras and oh.
literally, this feng shui is so off, and then you've got to, like, stand on the tube with all these negative energies every morning, and
What would your office
everyone's
even
miserable.
I can only imagine what you'd have in your office. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
plants. And my because I work for a residential children's home, but I work from home. Okay, so I can work for a corporation or a job if it's got a purpose, so a meaningful purpose. So, like, what do I do recruitment for a residential children's home? For me, I'm helping these children, and so that I can do anything with meaning. It has to have some meaning. If I can just go to a job and it be like some, yeah, has to. But yeah, I in the office I have, like, when I was setting up the office for them, I got one of them air purifier things where you can put essential oils in it,
Oh
because I
Lord.
lavender. But, well, it's important. People are stressed in there, so it's
Energy. Let's go. Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's
Guardians of the
go.
Galaxy. It's true.
So
If people were more mindful about their energy, and especially women, they're so disconnected from themselves and their bodies. That's why they think that they can do everything themselves. And then they're
Mhm.
stressed, and then they all end up with diseases and illnesses in their wombs. Why? Because that's where we store all our trauma and all our everything in our womb. And
And
so
then
like
and then
polycystic ovaries and all this stuff.
that's where Chad and Tyrone be banging them out.
Oh my gosh. Chad and Tyrone have been residing in someone's vaginas.
So
Yeah, and then leaving all their trauma as well behind in them, and then you've got it all in your body, and then they're wondering why they're all booky and crazy because they've got Chad, Tyrone, all their ancestral trauma. It's wild.
okay. Uh, we're gonna do one more clip, but I just wanted to say hi to the chat because I know all you people. Carlos X, good to see you, man. My guy China up in here.
Hey.
The mindset, AJ's ransom reactions. Good to see you, Reggie Gamer, Max Power, my G. What's going on? Frenchie, we can form the Megazord when Frenchie's here. I always say that because Frenchie is the Pink Ranger of all of the chats. So when she comes in, we can form the Megazord when she's there. MGTOW by Logic, good to see you. I think that's everybody. So we're gonna go. This is kind of a longer one, so I'm gonna let it play for like a minute and a half each time so we can get through it because it's about 12 minutes. But there's this podcast called Mocha Single Mother by Choice. And these are two African American women in tech in my area, in the DC area. And they're talking about it's just, and I'm going to try to hide my face. I have a very expressive face, but listen to this garbage. You want to talk about no accountability? Let's get this started here.
Actually, you would think it would be like fairly
Can you hear it okay?
Yeah.
straightforward, but it's not. But according to singlemothersbychoice.org, SMC is someone who decides to become a mother knowing that they will be the sole.
Oh, and Kemper Julian, one of the best people in the chat always. Big up. Hi, glad to see you. He's from Brooklyn. He always puts that he's from Brooklyn, New York. So good to see you, buddy.
Sole parent for their child, at least at the onset. But this is interpreted in many different ways. For example, with someone who has a one night stand and realizes the guy is not interested in being a parent and goes through the pregnancy anyway, a bunch of white women talking about like me to the next point here, like what is an SMC? You know, what is the definition of an SMC? And so I again went to the internet and was like, all right, how does Google define this? Right. And so it's interesting how hotly this topic is debated, actually. You would think it would be like fairly straightforward, but it's not. But according to singlemothersbychoice.org, SMC is someone who decides to become a mother knowing that they will be the sole parent for their child, at least at the onset. But this is interpreted in many different ways. For example, with someone who has a one night stand and realizes the guy is not interested in being a parent and goes through the pregnancy anyway, still be considered an SMC? Or does the title get to get reserved only for people who intentionally get pregnant or adopt to become single parents? So my definition, I guess, is somewhat traditional in the aspect of, I do think that a true SMC is somebody who plans from conception or from the moment that they pursue adoption, right, to parent alone. Like there's nobody else that's going to be paying like child support for this baby, right? Or could pay child support for this baby. And like your intention was to do this at all points in this whole process, right? So for me, somebody who goes to a bar and gets pregnant and then decides to still go through it with the pregnancy, that would not be an SMC. That would be a single mom, but that would be a single mom by chance and not necessarily by choice.
You see what she did there, Naomi? You see what she did there?
Yeah.
Let's keep a single mother by chance. Let's
Yeah.
keep going.
What do you think?
So that's what I was then.
So yes, so I think an SMC, a single mother by choice, is a woman who decides either to conceive or adopt on her own, that they are the sole caregiver, sole provider, emotionally, financially, for that child. No one else can put legal claims on that child, that child is yours kind of free and clear. And so I will say that when I decided to dive into being a single mother by choice, I was on in part of the national organization. So that frames a lot of my perspective in my formative years of being an SMC, and how I view it. There are certainly different ways to become a single mother, but I do believe that there are some challenges that are very unique when you intentionally decide in your head that I'm going to do this. And we're going to talk about that throughout the season, but planning is kind of like that foundational rock. You know in your mind that you are intending to try to either conceive or adopt, and so that's going to guide your path. You didn't just decide one day like, oops, right?
Yeah,
This
totally.
was something that was very thought out and very well planned.
What do you think, Naomi?
I do think that there's a stark difference between creating a life where they will have an absent father and adopting as a single parent. I think adopting a child that potentially would be in a care home or in a worse position, I think that is different. Like, I have very different opinions on like those two elements. I think they're different.
Okay.
So I completely agree. I think one of the real big distinctions, and I say this having been a single mom by chance as well, is that some of the drama that comes with being a single mom by chance, like custody or child support or like all the things with co-parenting, don't exist for us. Now, I am definitely one to not be part of the oppression Olympics, right? Like, I hate when people are like, oh, my friend is married, and I hate when she complains about how hard it is to be a parent. Like, look, parenting is hard. It's hard for married people. It's hard for single moms by chance. It's hard for single moms by choice. Like, it's different flavors, but it's all hard, you know? Like, there's things that we deal with, like, you know, not being able to take a shower or not being able to pee alone. Like, those are things that like are hard, right? And it's just like, I think it's just it's like unique challenges. It's not necessarily harder or easier. It's just different. And I think that's why, like, you know, it's not like we don't protect our spaces to be like exclusionary. I definitely think there's people on our you know, who you know, run in the same social media circles who are single moms by chance, and there's things that like we share. I mean, I guess you could like put a Venn diagram with, you know, like commonalities. But I do think that I think what's hard is that the reason maybe potentially also people get upset when those issues converge is that, you know, many of us have chosen this path intentionally to not have that kind of drama, right? And so like we certainly have our fair share of drama, but like it's not the same. And I think, you know, it's hard because you can't necessarily give someone advice on like how to deal with their baby daddy drama, like if you don't have a baby daddy, you know.
Yes, so
What do you think about the whole drama thing?
Your baby father's drama.
Yeah. So, like, what did you think about single mother by choice? One of the advantages they're saying is you don't have to deal with baby daddy drama. What do you think?
I mean, it's only well, yeah, because obviously my daughter's dad, I didn't have drama. He's never been around, so I can see both sides. But that they're thinking about it from their standpoint. Like when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at you've created a wound in a child. Like whether the father's there or not, you may not have drama, but this child is now not going to know what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship because you've chosen that life for yourself. And
I
so
agree.
it's like I would the thing is all the drama that I may have been through with my son's father at points, I wouldn't change that for the world. the fact that my son has a very present father in his life. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, I would rather not have that.
Naomi, how would you think a common? Because I can't even like grasp this, but how do you think a woman would be able to approach a conversation when their child, if they had a donor for a father, and then they get old enough and they start seeing other kids with their dads on the base, tossing the baseball back and forth and doing all this stuff, and they say, "Mommy, where's my dad?" How would you even approach that conversation?
Well, I had to approach it obviously with my daughter, and she was like, "Well, do I have a dad?" And I was like, "Well, of course you have a dad." She was like, "Well, where is he?" And so it was difficult, and I was obviously I never wanted to be like, "Oh, he didn't want you." So I just used to say some people have special daddies and some people don't. There's like I didn't know what else to say because it wasn't like she had a donor though. A donor, what, like I don't even know how you he put it in a test tube. Like you didn't even
I
you
know,
didn't
right? Well, what do you even say?
I picked him up from the shop. Like I picked him out of the catalog. I went to
I pulled the
Argos.
green paint tab out of the paint sample thing, and
I went to
gosh,
Argos and
yeah.
circled him. Argos is a shop here.
Let me
So to add to that, I think that there's something to be said for not expecting someone else to pull weight, right? And so I think when you go into this knowing that it's just you wake up every day knowing it's all on your shoulders. And and that can be a bit of a heavy lift, but I'll drink my coffee, I will take my ginkgo, and I will take my vitamins, and I'm here for this, right? But I think, I would really struggle with a teammate who was not pulling their weight. And, there's that added overhead of resentment. And so I would go through I would imagine having to go through my day. And I say imagine, but as I said, I was divorced. I'm divorced. And
Right.
so I actually know what it's like to go through the day, carrying the burden of, hey, dude, are you not going to do your half of the household chores? I could not imagine parenting with that same type of framework emotionally. And so I am so glad for this path. It is exhausting and it is challenging, but every day I wake up, I have the joy and the freedom of saying, I know what I'm going to do today, and I know it's just going to be me, and I'm okay with that.
But she has to do 100%. She might
That's what
only
I'm
have to do
saying. See,
60%, and even if he does 40% or 30%, you're not
that's
having to
better
do a whole
than
100.
100%, exactly.
But
And and so
I do get what. Okay, so um, I do get the element of if somebody is if nobody's there, you have no choice. So it's easier to have no choice sometimes than be irritated by somebody who has the ability. But then it's like if you're at home all day with the baby and he's at work all day, then would it then be 50% of the chores if he's at work all day? Would it not?
yeah, see, I'm one of those people. I have a thing. So
I would get a
this,
cleaner.
yeah, this is just my one of the opinions on my platform.
Mhm.
If if you're a person and you make 150 and the person you with makes 40,000, that
Mhm.
person needs to make up that difference in value somehow. And women are facing the same. If you're a woman and you make 150 and your guy makes 40,000, he needs to make up that value somehow because he gets to enjoy the benefits of the hard work that you put in to be in that position. So the
Mm.
person that makes less money should be doing more of the chores and the child work and all this stuff. I
What if
hate
they're
the
at
fact that there are guys that make $150,000 a year. They're freaking the average woman in the United States makes $33,000 a year, over 53%. So let's stop capping that women are making as much money as men. And and then that guy has to come home and do chores.
But what if she's at work full time? Like, would you be making that full time? No, you would make more if you were doing full time. So is that because women part time and that's why they make that?
No,
That's
and
full time.
on average, full time everything. Average woman,
But then that's
the
not fair that she's working the same amount of hours, but she earns
well,
less.
that's the
Then
thing about it. His
why
job,
wouldn't you get with
his job
somebody?
is probably more stressful.
Not
No, seriously,
necessarily.
men work more hours and have more stress in their jobs. It's a fact. A
Yeah.
woman that's doing admin for a company shouldn't be going up to a guy that's a police officer or work 100 hours a week and say you need to do chores. No.
No.
And Naomi,
If
hold
I
on real
wasn't
quick. Hold on. I'm equal though. If you're a woman and you're a high powered attorney or something, you shouldn't have to come home to your man saying, "Hey, honey, I know you had to litigate all day, but you should do chores." No.
yeah, yeah,
And when you
I
put it on the woman's perspective, women are okay with a man not asking the woman to do chores when she gets home, but a woman should be able to ask the man. I'm not saying that the man should do nothing, but you benefit from being with the person that makes all that money and did the work to get there, and that has to count for something. So this whole thing where we, once again, if you make equal amounts of money, it's a different conversation. But if you're with someone who blatantly makes more money than you and you're enjoying the benefits of that, don't ask that person to do chores when they get home. Don't ask them to change diapers because you are benefiting from that.
well, I mean, okay, so change it. The chores thing, 100%. Changing diapers, though, I, I feel. I'm gonna say I feel, um, is a bonding experience for you and your child.
Oh,
So
oh, oh, for the child. I thought you meant
for
like
you,
between the people. I'm like,
no, no, no,
where's she
no,
going with
no, no,
this?
no, 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 no. Because what if, like, yeah, like, changing a diaper is part of a parental like thing. Like, I don't think like chores 100%. I Every relationship that I've been in, I've done the majority of the house, mainly because I'm a bit particular about how things need to be done inside the house. And so it's just easier to do it than rather than watch somebody painfully do something. Um, and so yeah, I'm all here for the chores element 100%. But diapers, no. Like my son's dad, no matter how much he always like changed his son's diapers. Like not like yeah, it was never a question, or I'm not getting up and changing his diaper. If he's pooed and you're there in the room, you change the diaper.
Yeah, it's just and tell me what you think because I've always wanted to. Okay, I I spent a lot of my life either married or in relationships, and excuse me, I never been nagged. You wanna know why? Because I tell the woman I'm living with, "You need to accept the way that I do things.
Mm-hmm.
Your way of doing things isn't the right way that I have to live up to, okay? If I'm doing the laundry, I'm doing it my way. Don't
Yeah.
go behind me and be like, 'You didn't do it right,' or 'You didn't do it.' If you want it done your way, you do it."
Yeah.
Because too many women think that their way is the right way to do everything. Parenting, living in a house, and guys, I reject that premise. The way that you don't get nagged is you tell the woman that you're living with, I'm washing dishes my way. I'm cooking my way. I'm doing this chore my way. And if you
Mm.
don't like it, you do it and shut up about it.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you
I
think?
I agree. Even with my daughter, I just leave the kitchen when she's cleaning because I know that it will irritate me because she's really slow. And so I've had to become hyper aware that I can project how like quick I can do things and I just want things done a certain way. So I just leave. Like I don't need to be there micromanaging. Or am I a manager of the household? Like
But
that
that's
there
the
with
thing.
my
Like
I
too
just leave
many
it.
women feel entitled to be like the foreman of the house, and it's like no.
Do you know what? And also, I recognize that I was creating when I was younger, I was definitely like that when Aisha was little. But I think also because I was in the military at the time, so everything had to be particular and in a
Because
certain way.
because of course
But
you were.
but then what? But then what I did recognize is I was more stressed than everybody else because I was bothered about things that didn't need to be bothered about. Like, why am I bothered? Like, why can't like so I just took a step back and realized that not everything needs to be overthought, not everything needs to have something said about. Sometimes things can just be let go. And so um I'm way more laid back now. Obviously my house is still
I-
meticulously clean.
Immaculate. Right?
No, I mean it's clean. Okay, so it's okay. Yeah, I'll shut
Okay.
up. I'm
I
like,
have
all right. I
I
don't
have
have small children though, that's why. So.
two and a half more minutes. this podcast, and then I'm gonna drop the link and open up the line, see if anyone wants to contribute to the conversation. So let's get one more quick here.
Yeah, I think I mean, there's definitely all the things that you mentioned, are things that make me really love the fact that this was an option for me. But I will say that if I can pinpoint one thing that is super hard for me, at least, is that those moments, right? All of those amazing moments of childhood, part of the reason that I love being a parent, nobody cares about those little moments as much as I do, right? And
social media does. We care. No, I get
Did you hear that? Social media does. Get out of here. These women.
it.
I mean,
get
but
it.
and my parents care, right? They're super caring grandparents, but just things oh my gosh, she just said mama, or she's walking, and they're super, my family is just super supportive and they're all very excited, but it's not the same level of excitement that a parent gets when they see
Wait. So I know what I do with my eldest is I share those moments with her, and I'll be like, "Did you just see what she did?" And so we did that, and we giggle together. But I do get, another adult having skin in the game, right? Especially during this pandemic, where it's mama needs to tap out,
yeah.
I will say the thing that I find most challenging right now for me is, even on a day off during the week, I still have to get up and do daycare, the whole morning routine and drop them off, and in my single days, I would be like, yeah, I'm taking off work today. I'm taking a vacation day and I'm going to sleep in late. Right. I don't think that I will see another sleep in late day, for a very
5
long
years.
time.
So our kids are similar age, which is funny. I think it'll actually be, it's fun because, I feel like some of the, there's phases of parenthood. Right now we're in the toddler terrace phase at my house with my youngest. And it's all kids have different personalities, but there's some, kind of shared.
Okay, I'm gonna move it forward a little bit because I want to get to this right here. So let's get to this.
What you said earlier about walking that line between
Okay, get ready for this. Are you ready for shirking accountability? Here it goes.
What we know to be a single mother by choice compared to what society looks at as single moms, right? And so I sit on two sides of the fence on this. One, I do value the things that make an SMC different, the intentionality, right? The single-minded, purpose, the grinding because financially you want to set your kids up, right? So and the planning to become a mom. But then I also, in the larger spaces, the predominantly white spaces, there is a lot of we're this kind of a single mother and not that kind of a single mother. And so I push up against that every chance that I get because behind it is the stigma, right? They don't want to walk that line of being just grouped together with other single moms. When the world looks at us, the world is not going to say, I know how you conceived, I know how you adopted, as a single mother. They're not going to look at that. The world is going to group us all together and say we're single moms. And just from a personal professional perspective, I think that if we reach out to the margins of us and we pull that in, then we create resources and we create community, for us inclusively, right? But then we each know what differentiates our path. But to a lot of the white SMC spaces, they are intentionally trying to distance themselves from other single moms. And when we say other single moms, we mean single moms of color, particularly Black single moms who are out there on that far region that they may not normally interact with in their own lives. And so then they're like, we're not like that kind of single mom because I did it this way. I wanted my kid. And it's just like there are single moms out there by chance. So I will cape for those single moms by chance. I will cape for a Black single mom in a minute, and still acknowledge that there are differences in that, I woke up one day mindset. I'm going to put pen to paper and I'm going to, plan. Here's what I need to do. Here's what I need financially, because I know every day it's only me. But
Okay, okay,
Oh
okay. So
my
let's
God.
keep the whole race thing out. But
Um,
I think that I may have started a little too soon. But basically, what they're saying is they want to be able to say, "I'm not a single mother by chance. I'm a single
I'm a
mother
single
by
mother by
choice.
choice. Like a fucking
So
the
judge
the, the
me."
wound.
Go ahead.
The wound is exactly the same in that child. Full stop. Absent father creates a wound. Whether it's by chance or by choice, you have still created an absent father wound. You just got more money. That's the only difference, is you have more money. And that might not always be the case. Like, there's no difference. There's absolutely no difference. There's no difference.
The foolishness, the absolute foolishness.
And just
Oh
it's like
yeah.
some superiority complex. Is like,
Ugh.
oh, like, oh, I'm better than the other single mothers because I chose to. Actually, no, you're more stupid, because it wasn't a mistake. It didn't accidentally happen. You chose to create a wound in this child. You chose to bring a child into the world. You put pen to paper to make a bad choice. That's the
And,
that's this
and
that's where to have
the
it.
thing about it is if you know who, okay, single mothers, it's a bad deal all around. But you've heard stories where the child has found their biological no, has reconciled with their biological parent because they know who the parent is, and maybe they have a relationship later on. But you're burying that child into a door that can never be opened. It's always closed.
Yeah, I
Like what
think.
the?
Can they not find out on a? Can they not find out ever?
That's selfish. Because it's not that. What kind of position would that put the donor in if some 15-year-old child knocked on his door and said, "Hey, remember in
You're my
college when you
daddy.
the heck? If I look
When
another
you wanted
position on
when
my
you just
channel."
needed £100 and then you
Yeah,
thought, oh,
he was getting through college. He needed money to buy books, so he shot it in the cup. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna go to, and not only that, society would judge that man. Say, you had one of your children that through sperm bank come find you, and you didn't want a relationship with that child. Heck no! Why would he want to do that?
Mm. That's why I got asked if I would be a donor once, egg donor. I was like, they're my kids. Like, oh no, because I've got lots of eggs. So the woman was like, oh, have you ever thought about
You have lots of
being?
eggs.
I've got
Is that
for my
like a,
age. I go
is
no,
that
because I
like an
was going
official
for.
diagnosis?
Yeah, I was going for a fertility checkup, and the woman at the fertility clinic was like, "Oh, you've got loads of eggs for your age. Would you ever consider egg donor?" And I was like, "They're my babies. Like, not like I know they're not actual babies because they're eggs just chilling inside me, but." They're still 50%. They're still my DNA. Like, and then they could turn up at your house. Oh, my kids Ethan could meet somebody, falls in love, bam, it's his sister.
Ah, no.
Oh my
Oh
god,
no.
there was a guy on TikTok, a woman. Oh my god, this is so disgusting. A woman had given her child up for adoption. She met this guy, this young black guy.
Wait, just real quick. Max Power says Naomi keeps telling us that she's still very
I am
fertile.
very fertile. My womb works well, and I have plenty of eggs. Just saying it. Just say. Just putting it out there. Just put it
Okay.
out there.
Okay, well, what was the story off of TikTok again?
Okay, so this woman had given her child up for adoption. Then later on in life, she's met this guy who's younger than her, had a baby by him, found out it's her son.
Oh man, come on, man. Where was this at? The
I'll
U.S., right?
find the video. I'll send you the video.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
please do.
Yeah,
Please
it's in
do.
America. Of course. Yeah, it's in America.
Of course, it's probably in Florida.
Oh, the
Okay.
poor boy. You could see the guy's face in the background. He was just like,
Mm.
he was just, yeah, he was just so sad. Oh, imagine. It's worse than it being your brother or your sister. It was your mom. And you had a kid. Oh, hell no.
Oh, one of the positions on my channel is, guys, if you're listening to this, if a woman if a pregnancy occurs and you're taking all of the proper precautions, and a pregnancy were occur and a woman wants to have a child that gets your will, you pay child support and you keep it moving. You do everything legally responsible and you keep it moving. Don't be involved. Keep those veins cold. Don't let society shame you because she's choosing to do it by herself. And if that child comes 12 years later and knocks on your door, you say hello and then close the door and keep it
No,
moving.
that's mean. That
No,
is
it's not.
terrible
No, Naomi,
advice.
no, it's not. Nope, 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 it's not.
How can you
No,
cause it? It's not the child's fault.
no, no, no. You're
Would you
courteous.
call?
You say, "Hey, it's very nice to meet you. I hope you have a good life." And you slam the door. You
No.
actually tell them to back up 3 steps. Say, "Hey, back up a little bit." Wham!
But you've
Slam
been
the door.
you've been paying for that child. So if you've
So
been paying
what?
child support, no, but
So
okay,
what?
so the child turns up at your door, 12 years old, Doug. I like okay. So as much as I want to believe that you would say back up when the kid looks at you and they look like you as well, and then you're like, damn, he really looks like me. And then you're like backing your back up a bit and to close the door in his face.
Veins
Now, there
cold
would be
over
some
here.
there
Veins
would be
cold like Dracula up in here.
there would be some compassion and some like
Veins
it's not the
cold.
child,
Nope.
it's
You know
not the
what? You know
child.
what? You know what? You know what? I would ask them if they needed something cold to drink for the journey back to where they came from. I'd probably give them gas money. Actually, you know what? I don't have to give them gas money because the mom would still be getting the child support. So make sure that your mom gets gas money out the child support I gave her and
Yummy,
keep it
yummy.
moving. And that's the same thing with these uh donor children that find the donor father.
I don't
You
know
bet
100%, but if you've put your
keep
penis
those
inside of
veins
somebody,
cold.
if you've put your penis inside of somebody and shot up the club, as China would say, and then you got her pregnant, even if you didn't want the baby, where if the kid came to you at like 15, 16 and wanted to just know a part of themselves, I feel that it would be your responsibility to at least give them some time to find out a little bit about you so that
Nope.
they have, even if it is that you're a complete cold,
Because here's
heartless,
the thing about it, Naomi.
cold
How can that
vein.
conversation go without that child passing judgment on you, comparing you to some mythical ghost that her mom made up while you weren't there?
But it's not
All you would have to say is, say, look, you'd have to have a conversation, yes,
yeah.
but you'd have to tell them, say, look, my stance was I didn't want to be involved. And I would say, look, I need you to understand this. Well, you weren't there and you weren't this and we struggle. I say, stop. Shush, little dude. Shh, quiet. Okay.
But okay,
And
so
you need to
somebody
understand
mentioned,
because here's the thing: there's nothing you can do or say to make that child feel better. So you shouldn't have to. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, you don't have to. Of course, you don't. Nobody has to do anything. You're not obligated. It's not your task. You don't have to. I guess just as a woman with all this nurturing empathy and compassion, if a child knocked on my door and was like, "You're my mum," obviously I would have known that the child came out of me. But or
Hmm.
if I'd give my eggs and a child came and knocked on my door, even though I had given my eggs up for and I wasn't expecting to have another child or whatever, I would still let them know about me and where they, because genetically they're half of me. So like, just obviously I'm not a man, so I can't. I like my brain can't process being that cold.
Well,
So I
well, Frenchie
understand and
agrees.
well, friend.
Frenchie agrees, and she asks, "Would I at least mentor the child?"
No, she says she agrees with me. She says I'm
I
with
know that's what I
Naomi
said.
on this. All right,
Frenchie
yeah,
agrees with you. She said,
yeah.
I'm with Naomi on this one. Would I at least mentor the child?" I would say no. I wouldn't.
But you
I would.
mentor other people's children, but you wouldn't mentor.
Yeah, but that's because I'm choosing to. Here's the thing: women, they'll never understand what it means for a woman to have a child against a man's will. Look, it's 2023, ladies. Okay, this whole saying a man needs to step up in any way, shape, or form is misandrist because feminism has freed women up from having to be um, barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, but it's freed men up too. Women don't owe women have been saying for 50 years we don't owe men our time, we don't owe men our bodies, we don't owe men sex. Yeah, well, men, we can say the same thing. We don't owe women our resources. We don't owe women our time, and that applies to to children that we don't want either. I don't owe this child anything.
Aisha's father has told me from the day that I got pregnant he would not be in her life, and he never has.
Yeah.
And the thing is I never felt, I don't feel any like way, because it was my choice. I
Okay.
chose to have her, so it's like I don't like he stuck by his choice. I actually have more respect for him for doing that than if he was like in out. You know, like some guys would be like, I do, I don't. He made his choice and he stuck by it.
Yeah, I got to give him credit for that, because I'm telling you, this. I remember Shaquille O'Neal was talking about when he made it to the NBA, and then his biological father decided to come back around when he was in the NBA. Could you imagine the audacity of this guy? The audacity.
If his dad, my daughter says the same thing. She's like, when I'm rich and famous, if my dad ever even tries to come, I'm going to tell him
And
to
and on the reverse, she should, if her dad comes knocking on her door, she should say hi, tell him to back up 3 steps, and slam the door in his
She
face.
and my daughter fully would. She'd just look at him and close. She wouldn't even speak. She would just close the door.
Yeah.
She wouldn't speak.
So
100%.
so I am going to drop the link here and see if anyone wants to come up and chat with us. And thank you again, Naomi, for sharing so much. You
Okay.
are a great. I'm really glad that we get to do the show, and hope we get to do more in the future, because I have a lot. I like this dynamic between you and I, especially since
Yeah,
you have such a unique background, because your energy and chakra, but then you're also based at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so I'm gonna drop the link here, and let's see who wants to come up. Don't be scared.
I'm glad that everybody gets to know how fertile I am and that my eggs are still wet. The wall is approaching. Have I hit the wall yet? Am I at the wall?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kevin Samuel says that you're in no man's land, because the 35 and over is the tumbleweeds. Woo, woo, woo.
Tumbleweed.
But you know what? One of the best parts about you, Naomi, is you're based. Being based, it goes a long way, because that's rare nowadays, especially with attractive women. Tell you, these women, they'll be, whether they have kids or not, will just be going through life just straight up delusional. Delusional. And your energy and chakras without being delusional. Most of the time, delusion goes hand in hand with energies and chakras, but you were able to navigate past that. So
It's been around so many super logical people, like where I can't hide from it. Like, damn it.
let's see who else we have here. Hey, AJ, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Yo, what's going on? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so I think that there's a big thing that we need to kind of purse out here. And I noticed this a lot with like Pearl's show and a lot of like the content that happens in the UK as compared to the States, right? There's a race and a culture component that people don't see, right? So for instance, a lot, China, King Riches, Naomi, you guys are all on Pearl's show, which is how like a lot of the clips you guys started to spread. Now, a lot of Black Americans will watch Pearl's show and see that you and King Riches and China and stuff are Black, but you guys are Black Brits. You're not Black Americans. So your cultural experience is different than ours. But so your responses will confuse Black Americans. You know what I'm saying? So like, or they will take an answer that'll happen in the conversation, and it's out of context. So for instance, like, I forget, China's family is African, and like King Rich's family is Nigerian. But like us Blacks, we're just Black Americans. So our culture is different, right? Or like the single motherhood issue is a huge thing in our community, but it's not as big as it is there. I mean, the issue is not as bad there as it is here. No,
Is it
no.
really?
It's a
Hold on,
it's
hold
a
on,
hot.
hold on, AJ, hold on. What do you mean, Naomi? How's it bad?
But I mean, the majority of women that I know are single mothers. I mean, I don't think it's much different. I think maybe
Okay.
I think what's different is the laws for men in America is drastically different. So it
I,
affects men a lot harder
no,
out there than it does
I'm
here.
talking about this historical context because in the 60s, blacks, we were married at a 93% clip. We didn't have any out of wedlock births. We had, we were married at like 95%. We were the most married, the lowest out of wedlock birth, right? We have regressed in the last 56 years. Since it was all through Jim Crow, slavery, Reconstruction, we had a strong black family. Okay. Feminism in college did what slavery and Jim Crow couldn't do, and that's destroy the black family.
Yeah.
Okay, we started lower, but we were economically outpacing whites back in Jim Crow. We were under more actual institutionalized racism. So we have a different context in that our grandparents knew how to do this.
Yeah.
This is new for us and having a bunch of single moms running around. But if you look at the women of this obesity thing, the single mom, this is new. This is in the last like 35 years. But we've rewritten history so that people think that this is how blacks have always been.
Yeah.
In London, do you guys have like Chinatown and Koreatown and
Yeah.
like, okay, you know how like everyone there is, you go to Chinatown, right? All the doctors are Chinese. All the lawyers are Chinese. All the businesses are Chinese, right? That's how the black part of town used to be in the United States. If you go back in the 50s and the 60s, you would see that Doc Brown, the dentist, he was black, and then the teachers, the principals, they were all black. And now that's not the case. So what's happening with us blacks over here is we're in crisis. Because we didn't used to think about everything that you hear about, HBCUs and NAACP and all these things. Those were built in the times where, like the Harlem Renaissance, right? That happened during Jim Crow, during the most hardest times where there were to be black. Here's the thing: I don't know how much that you know about Black American history. I know talking about single moms, but this is going to all kind of go back towards that. If you know anything about Black American history, because we talk about Dr. King, Malcolm X, Mary McLeod Bethune, Sojourner Truth, etc. Right? You've heard those names, Marcus Garvey, right? Who in the last 40 years, what would you add to a Black history curriculum? What momentous event would you add that's happened to blacks? Would you add to a history book for your daughter to learn?
You're asking.
Oh wait.
You're asking.
Yes.
I don't know.
And Obama doesn't count because his dad was African. It was
he's
not
mixed as well, isn't he?
Well, it's not the
Go
case.
ahead.
Is that his ancestors weren't slaves?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would add to it.
Yeah, and that means is that this single motherhood thing is that was ultimately what the establishment meant to do, is break the black family up, and they did it hook, line, and
didn't
sinker.
they incentivize to that, like you would get help from the government if the man was not in the house in order to separate black families in.
Yep. But here's the thing: no one, and the thing is that they put these policies in place, but then there was the Monahan Scissors, where they actually still did put money into giving black men jobs. But with whites, they noticed that as white male unemployment went down, white welfare went down. But as black male unemployment went down on our end, black female welfare kept going up. The women actively chose welfare over the men, and over the last 50 years, look at that the black men over here who are doing a lot of the manosphere stuff, that China and all them, people will wonder why we're so like aggressive and annoyed and angry. It's just we spent the last 50 years just being trashed on by by a lot of people who are women who are our same skin tone. Oprah, Sally Jesse Raphael she would have black black women on the show. And a lot of us guys who don't fit the stereotype, we just had it. So we're done. But as far as the single mothers by choice thing, to get to this topic now, I think that this is the most selfish, self-centered, narcissistic thing that a woman can do. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think that is terrible, because even the whole anonymous donor parts. I have friends of mine who are adopted, and a good chunk of them who weren't adopted from another country have gone to find their birth parents. This kid will never find their birth father, ever.
No. Mm.
So they're always going to wonder, where's my dad? And then they've forgotten the practical benefits of having two parents, where the mom can take a break and the dad goes, "Don't worry, honey, I'll take care of it." You know what I'm saying? Like,
Why
that's
does it speak
practical.
like that? Why does the man
You
always
know?
speak like that when people put on men voices?
And or the wife can go, "You know what? You take the kids. I'm gonna go have a spa day." Single moms can't do that. And the
I
other
know.
thing that they don't.
The first time, so I cried, like, when was it? Last year, because it was the first time in 17, however many years, 10 years minimum, that I haven't had to do the school run, because my son can walk himself to school.
Yeah.
And it felt weird. I was like, oh gosh. And like there's never been anyone else to take my son to school except me. And so it was it was a big deal. Yeah.
Well, I think that a lot of women don't understand too is, like, as they're getting bigger during the pregnancy, women always ask women, "Oh, how's your husband dealing with this?" And you're like, "Oh, well done." Or the baby, they'll be walking. "Oh, so where's the husband?" or whatever. Women say that to each other, right?
Mm.
Or they'll be like, "So you had the baby, is the husband change?" Women assume more than men, because women talk about these things, that they make these kind of bald assumptions about relationship status. But
Mm.
men really don't care. Well, we don't really say much. But some of the single moms that I know, I know one girl. Did you do the whole maternity pictures where you're like standing in a field with a dress,
No, I
holding
didn't.
your stomach? But
No.
you've seen those, right?
Yeah. No. And with their
Yo,
husbands. My
your
friend
husband,
did it with
yeah.
her husband. My friend did it with her husband, and his belly was just as big as hers. It was quite.
But my friend did it by herself.
It was the saddest thing.
Yeah.
How sad would that be? How sad would that be?
Yo, she
Well,
was
I
standing
mean,
in a
I think it
field
could
by
be beautiful.
herself.
I mean, I think it could, like, I would prefer to do pictures on my own than with even if I was with my son's dad, I wouldn't have wanted him bare chest holding my, but I just find it a bit cringe. But I think the woman's body is so beautiful when she's pregnant that, I mean, it's like, yeah, if her husband was the one, was there as well, I don't think it would be lonely to take a picture. But
The whole
I,
point is that
it's to capture her looking pregnant and beautiful.
but
Um,
it's to show the family. The guy's like has his hands around her stomach. It's a symbol that she's pregnant and she's protecting the baby, but he's protecting her. That's the whole
yeah,
point of those pictures. But it's
yeah.
not supposed to be like. I think that's probably what sums up the saddest thing about some of these women that don't think about what being a single mom means. And they're standing in this field holding their stomach, and there's like no one around. That's
Yeah,
like
it's
the
quite symbolic.
symbolism right
It's
there.
quite symbolic of the loneliness that they'll probably feel quite a lot of the time throughout
So,
giving birth and stuff as well.
so I'm gonna ask you, AJ, if do you date single mothers or no?
No,
Okay,
did it?
okay. Well, then this is gonna be. Do you think that would, because I say it would be single mothers, that were married, then single mothers. I'm not gonna use the the BM word out of respect for Naomi. I'm not going to use it. Then there's the single mothers, the single mothers that were unmarried, and then the single mothers by choice. Would you agree that preference that would be the order? So single mothers who were married and got divorced, single mothers who were unwed, and then single mothers by choice. Would you agree with that that ranking?
Wait, can you say that again one more time?
So single mothers who are married and divorced are number one. When if you were to want to date single mothers, then single mothers who were unwed, number two, and then single mothers by choice would be number three.
Yeah, I think
Guys,
that.
rank in the chat and let me know if you agree with that ranking. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say so. But I would say that the only okay, so I've dated two single moms in the past. One was a lot older than me. I was 29 and she was no, I was 31, she was 40, right? So her
What?
daughter was like 17 at the time. But her daughter so her daughter was like not really an issue because she was in high school taking care of herself, blah blah blah, right? But then the other, but there was jealousy issues because like she was older than me, I was younger, blah blah blah. Then the other one was this girl that had a. This is in grad school. This girl had like a 1.5 year old, and I was at a cookout at her family's house, and her her ex tried to get in my face, and needless to say, that didn't go well for him. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I said, look, it's just too much back. Look, I didn't get through college and stuff, man whoring around when being in my 40s without kids by the skin of my teeth to take on another person's kid. You understand? I would think that I was somewhat strategic in not having kids, but I don't want kids anyways. So that's pretty much me right there.
Okay. And then what I guess another question is when you because it's just okay for people maybe it's have you ever talked to anyone, AJ, that talk to any women that just say, "Hey, if I don't have a kid by the time I'm 35, I'm going to do it by myself." And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what have been some of the common connections between these women? Like what's been going on in their lives?
I think that a lot of them make like above average income, and they won't do it, and they don't realize how hard it is to find a guy that makes as much as them, and they're just unaware of the numbers. Like I know a girl who lives near me that I used to work out with, and she, you know, had her own house. You know what I'm saying? Had a rental. Made 85K, 90K a year. In the area she lived in, she is Hispanic, so she would always date these like Hispanic dudes that were like landscapers and all of that. And there's like, and I'm like, why don't you just go to where the lawyers and the doctors are? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you? Because she's not a bad looking girl, But she was like, oh, if I don't meet a guy by the time I'm 35, uh, you know, I'm gonna get pregnant on my own. But then she recently met like the goopiest, like dorkiest dude because she used to date these hood pretty dudes, right? And now she dated this regular average dude, and they're married and have a kid. So I guess she just deprogrammed all that foolishness out of her brain. So and they seem happy, I guess.
Are they married?
Yeah. I think so.
Did they get married? Are they married? I don't know. But anyway. So, well, any other viewpoints on the subject, Naomi? Because I know you have a unique perspective. I'm glad that you would advise a woman to
Well,
not choose this path. Um, and I'm glad, I just don't, and I'm glad that you don't see it over there in the UK as much because I see it here
yeah,
all the time.
maybe
Yeah, but I
because
don't.
Hold on,
maybe
hold on,
because
AJ.
maybe because a lot of my friends are either married with children or already single mothers. So I don't have any single friends who want children who are my age. So
At
maybe
all?
that none. None.
What's
I
the
have a lot of my friends are either older than me, or my age with children.
what's the age group of your friends on average? So are you guys like
Um,
32 and like 40 or something?
50s and 30s, 40s. I've got friends throughout all ages, to be fair, all age
Okay.
ranges. Up to 50. Like one of my friends is in her 50s.
Now, do you
Yeah.
have any friends who waited too long to have kids and can't have them, and now they regret waiting too long?
I do have friends that have no children, are very career driven. I don't think that she regrets that choice though. She said she's too selfish for children, so I mean, I
At
don't.
least
Now,
she's
I
honest.
think now, so I think that a lot of women cat to their friends. You know, that's why box wine is such a thing because glasses are the
Well,
only thing that women truly tell the truth.
a lot of women with children will go have a glass. A lot of women with children will have a glass of wine because that's also just as stressful and lonely sometimes having children.
Yeah, but here's the
Um,
thing. There's, I think that you had both said earlier that there's nothing more sad than a woman who that waited to have too long to have kids and didn't. You know what I mean? And like I look, the single moms thing. Look, I'm gonna be a little bit controversial because I am a red pill dude through and through, right?
mm,
Honestly, but and I'm not pro single moms at all. But in a way, you are better off having kids as a woman. Most people want kids, most men and women. I would say 95% of men and women want kids. It's our biological imperative to reproduce. I
yeah.
think women cat more than men and say, "Oh, I'm not a baby maker. I'm not a la 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 feminism," right? But
Yeah.
ultimately, most of them want kids. But the issue is that there's this front that they put up for their friends about like marriage. I don't want to be married, and
I
then they
think it's
go home.
self-preservation as well. Self-preservation of like,
How is if you
in
can't
the
say
sense, I mean, in the sense that they can't change their choices, so they're already past that age. They can't change it.
Oh,
So it's
so they
like
have to
this.
say that they don't want kids because they don't
yeah,
have a
that's true.
choice.
Yep.
It's like, what else am I going to say? Oh yeah, I'm really sad. I'm terrible. I feel terrible about it. Oh, like it's like if you realize and acknowledge this is something that I can never do, I can't have, so I'm okay with it. Like
Yeah.
what more can you say, or what more can you do? Like, you've made your choices. It's just like with me, being a single mother, I could sit here and wallow and be sad and pretend that, and like, or I can acknowledge, accept my reality and be happy, because
Max
like,
Power says, with what you're saying, he says, correction, Naomi, it's self-preservation for their egos and the image they're trying to project to others.
100%, isn't that what most of the thing, like, even in me saying those things, it's self-preservation. Your ego will try and drag you down to a place of like, um self-destruction. So it's your higher self that's like, okay, well, how can I create a space of peace and acceptance in my reality, because that's all you can do.
But here's the thing about women though, because it's not about just that. It's about okay, men. We have most successful men have idea of a wolf pack, right? Okay, you have your homies, you have your guys you check in on each other, and you're like, dude, you got fat, or dude, why is your money game not good, or dude, like, why are you with this chick? She's crazy. So we can be brutally honest with each other, right? Women will go and they'll. So I have one friend of mine where his wife was giving him all this mess about like when they first got married, they wanted to have kids. Then all of a sudden, he's like, "All right, so we're gonna have kids now," because he's very successful and she works, you know. And all of a sudden she's like, "I'm not a baby maker," blah blah blah. And he's like, "Where's this coming from?" It's from her friends because single women keep women single. She was the only married one in the group, and all of her friends they would go to happy hours and front and say, we don't want to be married and strong and independent, blah blah blah. But then one of them kind of let it loose and like, you know what? I hate going home and being alone.
Mm.
So when men don't do that, when we front to each other, well, we might say that we smashed a chick when we didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like
There's that.
those
I
are the
was about to
things that
say
men
that.
say. You know what I'm saying? But women have this thing where in their 20s they all cap to each other. Marriage is patriarchy. It's dumb. Being a mother is dumb. It's stupid. It's patriarchy, right? But
Mm.
then they go home and look in the mirror and know what's up. They
Yeah.
know what's up. And it usually takes, and that's why they always hate on each other when one of them gets married. You have friends. How many friends do you know that are women where one of them gets a man or one of them gets a boyfriend or gets pregnant, and all the rest of them start hating because they all know for a fact that that's all what they want.
Oh,
Women just need to stop capping to each other and start giving each other good advice and saying, look, we should all be married by the time we're 34 or 31 or 28 or 27.
yeah.
And if we're not, we will kick each other in the pants.
Unfortunately, I mean, I hear that this is the thing. Like, I didn't experience that. Like, none of my friends said these things. Like, oh, we should. Everybody that I know wanted to get married, wanted to have children. Yeah. I don't have that whole city girl friendship group though. Maybe that's why.
Well, I grew up in walking in a liberal wonderland. You know what I'm saying? And these women are off the chain. These purple haired, uh, uh, you know, goofy haircut, patchouli wearing, dreadlock chicks, and all they do is just
Hey, there's
go,
nothing wrong with having. I
"What's that?"
said there's
And
nothing wrong
Naomi's
with
like,
having.
hey, wait a minute, don't talk about me like that.
No, like whoa,
No,
whoa,
no,
whoa,
no, no,
whoa,
well,
whoa.
no. I'm talking about white women who have dreadlocks,
Oh, okay,
Oh,
yeah. That's wild.
right?
we have another
Okay.
person coming in real quick. Hold on. Ghost, what's up, my G? How's it going?
Yeah, how you doing, my brother? You good?
I'm good,
Hey,
man.
Hey,
Good.
Naomi, you good?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, no, I've just been recovering, man. I've been a bit sick, but yeah, I'm
Uh-oh.
getting there
Hope you feel
still.
that
Yeah,
better, man.
yeah. I'm trying still. How you lot doing though? You lot good? Yeah, I
Yeah, good,
tuned in a
man.
bit late. I was trying earlier. Um, but yeah,
We're
wait,
talking about
you gone.
this is the first policy and energy show, and we're talking about single mothers by choice. Single mothers by choice are women who intentionally go into parenthood being their child's sole provider. So no father, no child support, no co-parenting, no nothing. What do you think about that subject?
I think it's bullshit. Like, I think literally, cause like it's one thing if things didn't work out properly and you're making the best of a bad situation, but to actually glamorize it and be pro single parent is another thing. I think you're then it's selfish fundamentally for the child. I think the child needs both paternal and maternal influences. There are things that are exclusively, you know, um, things that a child could learn from a father and things that a child could learn from a mother. And as much as some women have, become mummy and daddy, they can't do both successfully as a good father. I wouldn't say, there are like terrible dads and terrible mums out there. So, but I'm just saying, given that they're reasonable, level-headed people, then you need a mother and a father for different reasons in your life. So it's selfish, and I don't think it's a good thing. It's gonna be one of the reasons for the demise of the nuclear family, which we're seeing. There's loads of other factors, but yeah, I just don't see it in any positive.
Okay.
I don't see anything positive about it.
Hey, question. So I don't date single mothers, but if you were to date, so do you date single mothers, Ghost? Yes or no?
I've slept with them.
Let's go.
But
Okay.
like what it is
I
is
do
like,
believe that's called brutal honesty.
but going forward in life now, I wouldn't.
Ah.
Ideally, I wouldn't want to settle down with one. Ideally, now going forward, if that
Why is
makes
So,
sense.
that?
If you're asking me,
so go ahead.
ideally, I mean, you have to be all right. If you if there's so many things in 2023 that make a relationship complicated as it is, and so many external factors and so forth. I think adding a child that's not yours into the equation is just another potential difficulty or obstacle. For example, um, there's things like, is she still in contact with the father? Are they co-parenting? What's their dynamics?
Mm.
Because under normal circumstances, yeah, I wouldn't be okay with my partner being in contact with her ex. But in this case, it would be
She has
like,
to be.
man, she has to be. So it's like now, I'm having to accept an ex and more than an ex, like a father of that child in her life. So that
Mm.
like there's loads of potential things with that alone, yeah. The financial burden, like, so obviously if you're gonna invest in that woman long term and have kids, and you're kind of accepting that child as kind of one of yours, in it. So financially, that's an extra consideration. Things like discipline, would where do you draw the line? Because if you're disciplining your kids and then you discipline the one that's not biologically yours, how would that be? Would that be how would that be seen from various angles? When the child grows older, will he respect you, or would all the work and time and effort that you put in with that child as well go to waste? If you've not got any kids, and that person you have has a kid already, if you have another kid with them, it might not be as magical of an experience, a new experience. So it's not a mutually new experience for you both.
Mm.
What else? There's like
And
loads of
there's
factors.
also, you got to think that if you're with a woman, right, and
Yeah.
she's a single mom, you will never be number one priority for her, but she has to be number one priority for you, and you shouldn't be number one priority because her kids are, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
not fair. And number two, if I meet a woman who has kids and we get married, I don't get a new marriage with my new wife and we're out doing newlywed things. She's a mother already. She has responsibilities, so we can't go out and jet set and do whatever. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, we
definitely. So
just
those
can't.
factors as well. Yeah, yeah.
And
I guess
I have
I'm
a
just
is that
question
going to be
for.
a? I dropped a link to another one of these single mothers by choice. If you want to click on it, but I'm just saying, yeah, there's a link
Well,
in the chat.
we're only gonna go
Anyways,
for another like 15 minutes or so. Because I
um
told Naomi that we're gonna go for 2 hours. You have like 15 more minutes, Naomi?
yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Go ahead.
I guess I'm just no, I was just gonna say I guess I'm just looking like when people say that mothers have less time, and like I travel more than most people in relationships.
But it depends on
Um
the age of your kids as well, though.
yeah, I
Because
know,
yeah,
that's why
that's
I'm like
true.
I'm lucky I don't have small children, and I'm still young.
yeah,
So yeah, I guess
Uh,
for
uh, there's a question in the chat from Frenchie. She says, "Could you please ask Naomi her thoughts about single mothers being for recreational use only?" So, hold on, let me frame it real quick. So, a lot of red pill spaces say, like, well, I mean, Ghost said on the way in here, he
Mm.
sleeps with them, but he doesn't commit to them. Like, what are you? And a lot of red pill spaces say that pretty much the era of the stepdaddy is over. What do you think about that?
Over.
um it hasn't been my experience, but I mean, because I'm very picky, um I it's difficult because a lot of single mothers don't want a man to be in their house, and they also are using the man as recreational. So I
Hey,
think
if any woman wants to use me for recreational use only, Yo.
But I mean, like a lot of the times that's the case. They like I know a few friends that they what the guy's never allowed to their house. They go over to his house. They get what they need, and then they happy with their children.
Is that a long-term deal, or does it always end up, they want to get serious and all that stuff?
No, I mean it's never a long-term deal. I think most of them go in cycles and they end up with somebody else probably. But I mean, I don't. A few people that just on the top of my head that are not bothered about it getting serious because they don't want to put their energy into a man anyway, because their energy is going into their children.
I think the craziest thing. Sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to say my experience, my past relationship, he was a little bit older than me, and we were together for 3.5 years. So he still now like calls to check up on my son, mainly because they obviously 3.5 years when my son was quite young. Even though my son's dad's in his life, he still created a bond with him, didn't he? So it's like I don't have that experience because I can see when a man wants what you're saying, recreational use, and I am all about energy and frequencies, and I am not taking on anybody.
She's doing jitsus with Naruto and Sasuke over here.
No, but Naomi,
I'm not taking on anybody's, and also like guys get a bit obsessive as well. So I'm like, I'm gonna keep my energy to myself.
I think a huge factor though.
AJ, hold on. Go ahead, Ghost. What's that?
No, let AJ go first. I'll finish after.
I think that a lot of women, especially ones that I know, they have babies just like that book, Your Promises I Can Keep. If you haven't read this book, it's basically saying why women choose motherhood over being wives. It's a whole, like, they've known what this is for a long time. It's a book called Promises I Can Keep. And it's saying
wasn't it written in the 80s or something?
Yeah, it was women,
go ahead. I'm
especially
sorry.
women in poverty, right? Getting along with an adult, there's expectations. It's work. It's a job. So they have children because they know that they can try. It's easy to try and keep the promise of taking care of a child, right? So, for instance, why you Brits use the term partner? I can't stand that term. What does a partner mean? If Ghost and I go in the business, right? We have to sit down and write down what a partnership is. Partner is a non-descriptive, descriptive word. If you say that you're looking for a partner in a relationship, that doesn't mean. That's why I use the term husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, and fiance, because there's a meaning and a weight and an expectation that comes with those words. If you're gonna be a boyfriend, there's an expectation of that. The women stop using those terms, fiance, girlfriend, and wife, because what does wife mean? Most people know what a wife is, the basics of what a wife is, and people don't want to be held to those standards anymore, right? My other point is this. So if you want to be serious, if you're going to find out as a woman, if a man's just serious, use the term boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, fiance.
Do you know what I think it is when you get to a certain age, it sounds quite juvenile to be like, oh, he's my boyfriend.
But partner sounds better. Are you serious?
No, listen. I'm saying,
I know what she's saying, like, because I think
like
it's a UK
you feel
thing.
like you should be like saying my husband.
Boyfriend. I think the term boy and girl, the prefixes sound.
Yeah, but I guess that it like still means that you guys are in some type of relationship, but partner means that you're assuming. Look, most of the millennials and stuff, like 20-year-olds, don't really have the communication, the interpersonal skills to talk about what a partnership is. So I feel like most people make relationships about assumptions. How many times have anyone that sat down and said, "Look, we're gonna be exclusive now, so I expect this and this and this, and you expect." People don't do that. So partner, you assume. And my other point is this: these single moms have kids thinking that there's a hole in their life, and they're going to get unconditional love from their child. So they have the child, and then all of a sudden they're looking around, kids 2 or 3, like, I'm lonely. Just like Naomi said, it's lonely being a single parent. If children were the solution that a lot of the women that I know were looking for, they wouldn't be on dating apps trying to date. Relationships
because
Absolutely.
are
That's
important.
true.
well,
Holy
this is
crap.
why
Are important.
they also say that, like, but especially with male children, after the ages of 7, you should not allow your child to sleep in your bed, because what happens is
Ah!
psychologically, listen,
That's a thing where people still do
psychologically,
that?
Son, husbands.
yeah,
Ugh.
because psychologically, that what happens is that boy then internalizes that he's somehow the man of the house. Like, I never ever
Sigmund
say, "Oh,
Freud.
you're the man of the house." I've heard
Yeah,
women say to their sons, "You're the
like
man of the house."
Oedipus.
No, my son is not the man of this house. He's not. Like,
Mm.
he never will be,
Uh,
because, and that's why they say psychologically, psychologists say, do not allow, like, there's age brackets, isn't there, for certain things where boys and even girls as well, it's not healthy for a girl to sleep
Yeah.
in your bed after a certain age as well. But obviously, as a mother of a son, I'm hyper aware of how I parent him as a mother, because I
Yeah.
don't want him to have his wings clipped because of my lack of a partner, if that makes
Guys,
sense. I'm
yeah, no.
very, very conscious of it.
what's that, Ghost?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on a few things. So basically, like, I will say, I made that statement, but there are things to consider. Like, if I was like so if a man is older and has kids, plural kids himself, um, that would be a different scenario to a man in his prime and having no kids, because he might be more then willing to kind of date someone or take someone more seriously, even if she's got kids, because he's got kids as well. Do you get where I'm coming from? I think that makes a difference. Context as well, like why has she got multiple fathers of kids, and why did those, like, not why did those relationships not last? Because that shows bad decision making. Whereas someone might have got married and then divorced, and divorced because maybe they got cheated on, for example. So that person's in a different category than the other person. Do you get what I'm saying? So I do feel that when you're older and you've got kids yourself, and the context of the reason the other person's got kids and how their situation does make a slight difference. And also I will say, like, with regards to, I think a lot of problems have, yeah, there are examples and exceptions of, like, people who come from broken homes who become successful and so forth. But we in UK, especially in the inner city, London, etc., we suffer from a lot of, similar to in America, a lot of, like, hyper masculinity. Um, and the thing is, like, a lot of there's a correlation. A lot of those people come from broken homes and, like, single mum households. And the thing is, like, there's no stoicism. There's no kind of they've kind of misconstrued the idea of what masculinity is, because obviously, like, a man generally is more physically stronger and
Facts.
has the potential to exert that strength, but when necessary is the operative kind
Yeah.
of phrase here. um and women typically, obviously, if men are more logical and women are more emotional, we both are emotional creatures, but we display our emotions differently, and we're able to control them in a different fashion, yeah, as men. And so, if you're being taught by your mum how to be a man and she's a woman, um, how well can she do that, essentially? Because if women are displaying their emotions in a different way, and sometimes maybe irrational in the way they behave, and erratic in the way they behave, and I'm learning that as a male, but then I've also got the physical strength behind that, and the environmental factors of the inner city that I live in, and I've got, like, guns and knives around me and whatever. It's a bad combination potentially. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I could end up, like, doing something of committing a mad act of violence impulsively and irrationally over something quite trivial, because I haven't learned the art of stoicism, and the ability to restrict and contain, and not like suppress, but control and manage, being the
Yeah.
operative word, manage my emotions. Do you get what I'm saying? In a way, in a masculine way, you know. So I feel
But
that's
we,
quite an important. Yeah, go on.
but there's a racial a component that's happening, especially too. Is black boys and black girls are not viewed by whites the same, right? So like black boys like are held to a different standard because we're seen as being more of a threat than anyone else. So like my parents, like we're told, like you when you are around white people, they expect this you, so you have to act a certain way. We have a whole new generation, and how it is in the States with a lot of us blacks, a lot of black women act out in public, and and that's fine, but there's still women. Black men who do that end up in jail or underground. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
now we have a whole group of young boys that are more emotional, that fly off the handle, that crazy. Well, if someone calls the authorities and they show up, they aren't going to treat them with kids' gloves. This is how it works. You know what I'm saying? So this
Yeah,
whole thing where
exactly.
like all these women say, I want a man who's more emotional. Some of the most dangerous men are emotional men,
Yeah,
overly
no, exactly.
emotional
Yeah,
men.
But
it's
but okay. So having a man in his masculine doesn't equate to somebody being not having the ability to manage his emotions. Like they're two different things. Like when a
they
woman,
are there.
they're two different things
Masculine
because you get
means you manage your emotions, though.
because some of the
Is that you're
strongest
strategic?
men are disciplined with their emotions. They know how to deal with their emotions, and they know how to but at the same time it's like they still know how to communicate their emotions.
What?
Like
But
Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
I
We're
would
all
say
emotional.
oftentimes,
We're all emotional. It's how you manage it that's the key.
just real
yes,
quick.
yes.
The thing about communicating emotions is, I honestly believe that in current society, women expect everyone, children and men, to emote like themselves. So you have to
Yep.
be able to
To vote
communicate,
like
but
women.
then your significant other needs to understand that that's how you communicate. Okay.
mm,
You should put your communication styles up front and say, look, I'm not gonna, I don't want to hear about your day. I don't want to hear about it. You should be perfectly fine to say that. A woman should say, look, like I don't, you should be able to say, just like I told you earlier, I don't get nagged in relationships because I tell a woman, if I'm gonna if I'm gonna take out the trash, I'm gonna do it my way. If I'm gonna do the laundry, don't come behind me and tell me I'm doing it wrong. We need people to sack up and say, I'm not gonna communicate. This is how I'm gonna communicate. Take it or leave it. But this whole thing where you need to work on your communication style. I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm successful. My communication style is just fine.
yeah,
You look
I
at
think that's when we went, well, for me anyway, when I'm talking about effective communication, it's about important things, not like you taking the trash out. Like we don't have to talk about you taking the trash out. It's like when something massive has happened, which eh, and angers in this space or whatever it is, a lot of people don't know how to communicate effectively, and this is how you get angry people. So even women, because I've seen women on, like, even I was watching earlier two women arguing with it, American women, and it was bitch this, bitch that. Like I don't know, like they were just whole went from 0 to 100 in seconds because there's no effective communication. And so it's like you don't have to nag at each other. That's not communicate. Nagging isn't communication. I don't know where we get that
It's just about
nagging.
being honest, transparent, but respectful at the same
yeah.
time, and assertive when needed. And
Exactly.
Well,
I think
but
that the problem is now, yeah, that obviously with the advent of social media being a catalyst, etc., like we really we praise, especially the communities that we're from. I don't know where you guys are from, but like say where I live or whatever, we praise the wrong things, we congratulate the wrong things. So like if someone's not getting that taught from home, they're going to learn from social media, they're going to learn from all these external environments of how quote unquote a man is meant to be or whatnot. And what seems to happen is the guys that act out impulsively and very irrationally, but with high levels of violence, they're praised and it's romanticized. So
I agree.
obviously in their mind, you know, the younger impressionable youth are going to see that as their role models, and then the cycle continues. And obviously the music doesn't help, etc. Do you know what I'm saying? And
Low
so I feel like
Goes,
I think
I have a question
historically,
because hold on just real quick because I want to get back on the topic real quick. So, okay, we were there's in the red pill space. They say a single mother that was married, married the father of their children, and they got divorced. It didn't work out. So if you are going to have, if you are going to deal with a single mother, that's optimum. And then there's the single mothers who are unwed, because we don't use the BM word on this show.
Boop, boop.
and then and then third, I would say, are single mothers by choice. So if you had to deal with, if a young man, let's say he had kids, and say, hey, you know what, I don't mind dating women with children, I would tell him, find a woman who was married first and had her kids, then find a woman who was unwed, number two, but avoid single mothers by choice at all costs. What do you think about that ranking?
that's what I
yeah,
would say.
no, I definitely agree because um that, like I touched on it. I said there's the context is important. Remember I said that to you, and I said if someone was married first and it didn't work out, at least you know that I guess it suggests something that if someone waited to have a kid after after wedlock, that suggests something about that person. Whereas if someone is like the other extreme, just doing it like single mother by choice, then I would say like that suggests feminism to me. It suggests like that person doesn't really understand the importance of a man in bringing up the child. Therefore, that would be a red flag for me, because if I'm now going to enter a long-term relationship, would she, would it be hard for her to understand my value? I'm not trying to convince you, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not my job. So for me, that's a huge red flag. Like someone who feels that they don't need a man, and a man's not needed, a man's not wanted, do you know what I mean? That for me is a red flag, because I want ultimately kids with my long-term partner. And
You said partner.
yeah, I
Can I
don't
just
mind
say
that
that
term, no, but I
Your
never
wife,
said that.
your wife,
I
your wife?
your
I
wife.
yeah,
Get
so
married first.
I want
Can I just say that I agree with
You gotta
Frenchie?
get married.
Well, so I want to ask her question. It says, question:
oh
why do men complain about women being emotional when it's a feminine trait, right? Yet men want us to think logically. Wouldn't that make us more masculine?
I
you know
think
what,
what
I
needs
thought
to
about
happen
that the other day, and I thought
is
that was
that
quite interesting. Yeah,
what I think that
actually.
needs to happen is there needs to be an understanding of how we communicate. But what happens is that women get emotional and expect men to understand, and men get super logical and expect women to understand.
I
Whilst
don't agree
they're
with that.
in,
I think it's
whilst
one
they're
way.
It's one way.
But I'm sorry. Go
whilst
ahead, Naomi. Go ahead. Go ahead.
whilst they're in the conflict. When you're in the conflict, both of your chimps are talking to each other at that time. So at that time, you're both expecting each other. Have you read the book Chimp Paradox? So it's like both of your chimps. So you're not even hearing, like your souls are not actually hearing each other. All you're hearing is
Yeah,
like anger, aggression, and then all that you're hearing screaming and shouting and blah 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 blah. And then it's like you're expecting each other to be able to understand each other in that moment. It's not going to happen. I think in hindsight, men are able to then go away and logically break down what the hell came out of her mouth, whereas women struggle to go away and emotionally be like and find logic from somewhere and break down what the guy was even trying to say, because we
I'll
weren't
hold my
even
hands up.
listening to you.
I'll
We
hold
were
my hands up
screaming
though,
at you.
guys. I'll hold my hands up. I've done this. I've this is funny. This question is what I thought the other day. Like, yeah, I am someone who expects a woman to kind of understand my logical angle, and I'm quite assertive about, and I'm trying to almost impose that way of thinking. But at the same time, I have to understand that that's a more of a masculine trait. And
But
similarly, I'm very reluctant to, maybe that's me being a hypocrite, but I'm very reluctant to and resistant to her emotional or sometimes irrational way of thinking in an argument, especially. So I agree. And I feel that the solution to that is kind of what Naomi said. It's like understanding how we're wired, embracing that, but then the ability to understand and embrace the opposite. And then it's almost like two different languages. So it's like Google translate it in a sense. But I think that comes with like naturally the woman's gonna do what she's wired to do, and the man's gonna do what he's wired to do initially, right? If we both take a breather sometimes, I know it's easier said than done, and sometimes potentially even write things down and come back and revisit it, then it might be. I've done this though. I've actually done it, and it worked for me though. Funny enough, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it works in a sense.
I disagree with everything that was just said. The reason why, Naomi, you were talking recently about why like the housework, why like you like to do stuff because you like it done your way, right? Like if someone else, like you watch your daughter do the dishes and it's wrong, so you have to leave.
No, I didn't say it was wrong. I just said she does it really slowly, so it irritates me. So I just leave.
Okay, hold on. Let's stick with that, right? Okay, that's not. But you have accepted that that's the way she does things. It's just the way she does it. But your way has worked for you. That's your norm. You know what I'm saying? In especially in the States, misandry is everywhere. Especially our school system. 84% of all the ADHD drugs go to boys in the United States. Why?
And 60% of them are black boys.
Yeah, because the
and probably
curriculum
have
is
terrible
saying,
diets as well.
No, but listen. But they're saying that the way that girls learn is the default. So being a boy is a pathology that has to be cured. And when it comes to relationships, women assume that the way that you emote and argue is the baseline. Because in media and everything else, there's this whole thing, they use terms like men need to be more emotionally intelligent and all this other stuff. There's a whole market of trying to say why men lack in
propaganda.
Communicating. But the thing is, the way that we emote and react is just fine. You're othering the way that we react. You're saying I'm not saying you, but society is saying the way that women learn, the way that women act, the way that women react, the way that women emote is the baseline, and men are other and need to learn how to be. Even the awareness of women saying, you know what, maybe I need to understand men more. How many women do you know in your life, guys, that said, I think that I need to understand how my husband communicates, or I need to understand why my husband does it. It doesn't happen. It never has. And it never will.
Go ahead.
Let me add to this, yeah. I totally agree with that. The only reason why I've never let that affect me in my personal relationship, I've never enabled that behavior. So I will never put let's say my other half or partner, I know you don't like the terms, behavior. One second. Her behavioral traits as the standard or the norm or on a pedestal. I'll never do that. So I will always assert my way as just as, valid, if not more. However, I do agree that in reality, with the media, with films, all the propaganda, and also like even in the work environment, I've experienced this. Yeah, it's full of enablers and people that like literally. So for a start, right, women enable women, and they will kind of always tend to pander to each other in a sense that it's very hard for them to give each other constructive criticism because they will end up empowering each other. Oh, you go, girl, or you're better than that. Or you don't need him, and da 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 da. A lot of that comes with like overcompensating because in a male dominated environment in work where traditionally it's been more male heavy, as it were. So they've had to adopt certain traits and they do the most because they're overcompensating. But I feel like they've imposed that ideology also on the male colleagues to kind of it's her time of the month, or there's all this understanding and
But
enabling
women
of
don't.
that behavior.
Women don't
No,
communicate
wait, one
either.
second. There's all that kind of we as men have to kind of accept that, oh, it's almost like that's how they are, kind of thing. But the minute I do something that's natural to me, that I'm white, it will be deemed as aggressive or
Yep.
But
Other. Wrong.
it will be
Yep.
like the non-standard way, the alternative, the rock, less than. Do you get what I'm saying?
it's not.
So I think that's true. There is a lot of truth to that,
Yeah,
because
it'd be like saying,
I'm not saying that there isn't truth to that.
yeah.
Women also don't know how to communicate effectively. If we're talking about the average,
Women
the
are allowed to
average,
get through life without having to learn how to communicate. Men have
but
to,
the,
because
but
we have consequences.
well, the consequences for women not being able to communicate effectively is being single, ending up alone. So there are consequences to that as well. But in a workplace, of 100%. But what I was saying was that the solution to that is understanding, and understanding that we don't communicate the same. We will never communicate the same because we're not the
So
same.
but
And
yeah,
see, you
but the
know
why
this,
is
problem
there
is,
a but?
but
Why
you're
is
not the
everything led
average
with a
one,
but?
because you're saying this. See, women have so women who are exceptions to the rule tend to argue like you are the rule. You are
I'm not.
saying this. No, you
I'm,
have an
I'm
understanding
saying
that
a
you have to
solution,
understand. No, yes,
just
yes,
as
I
you
understand
came,
that.
just as you came with solutions for young men, how to move forward effectively by not doing this and not doing that. As a woman, I have an obligation to give advice to younger women how to get to a place of effective communication, how to do things better than we have been doing them. So
yeah,
just because I am an exception, it doesn't mean that I am not meant to speak from that space and speak it into young women in order for things to be able to at least have a glimmer of hope for change. Because if you heard the way my daughter communicates, she communicates effectively. Why? Because I speak it into her.
Yes, but we're
and it's
talking
all
about
about solutions. It's not
but
about
we're talking
even about
about okay,
dwelling on the problem too
but
much.
we're talking about relationships. And I said, good for you. Look, what I'm saying is you have a snowball stance in hell of telling young women to understand
Well,
men
I
when
mean,
they don't see the need to. That's
what
just my
Naomi is saying is
opinion.
you still have to put the message out there,
Yes,
and
yes,
they can choose to listen or they can
Starts at
choose not
home,
to.
or
and
not,
she's
and
doing
not.
it
Yeah.
from home though.
Yes, but here's the issue: is this? I say this? It's like men speak Spanish and then women speak German, right? Women are saying it's only okay to speak German, whereas men have always said, "Look, I'm willing to learn your language." But there's never been in 50 years of our media over here, in my 42 years on this planet, there's never been an effort at all for women to even. It's an insult for them to even think that they have to understand men. And what I'm
Okay.
saying is, it's not just it's structural with the schools, it's cultural with media, social media, and it's in the home. So I
Okay.
hope somehow we can abracadabra and get
Well, there's never an
this done. But
abracadabra for anything, but I think when we
mm,
start to
Uh,
speak things into spaces, that's when things can have the possibility and the potential to change things. Like my daughter, she is the next generation, and so I know that she communicates effectively. And so if she's then around her friends, even her friends are like, "Oh my God, Aisha, that she's always the one that people go to because she has an ability to stay grounded and rooted
and
in her
and it's
communication."
these single steps and small changes from the home,
Exactly.
like you're
oh,
doing, that make a big
okay.
difference.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna do
one
this
second, Doug.
exercise real quick. Real quick. Real quick.
Doug, I just
Uh,
wanted to ask you something. What
Just
do you think about
let's just book in this
women?
subject real quick. Real
Okay,
quick.
all right,
Okay.
go on, go on.
I'm gonna start with Naomi. We can go to AJ and then Ghost. The solution to what we just talked about between communication styles between a man being logical and okay, so a woman being asked to be more masculine and a man being asked to be more feminine communication styles. In 5 seconds, say what you would say to a young person if they ask you about that. Just let's bookend it. So Naomi, go ahead and start.
Sorry, what was sorry, you
So
lost me.
because Frenchie asked for solutions. You kind of hit on it, solution, but just real quick, in like 5 seconds, say what your solution would be to that. Just nice and quick.
In how to tell somebody how to understand the opposite sex.
Yes, like communication styles. So, like, if a person were to find themselves in a relationship where the woman is being asked to be more masculine and more logical, and the man is being asked to be more feminine and emotional, like, what would be your simple solution? Just real quick.
Active listening and pause.
Okay, and then AJ, what's yours?
Look at your grandparents. A grandma wouldn't ask your granddad to talk like a woman, or go to the third world. Go to more traditional areas like Africa, the Middle East, where if you go to a party, all the women are in the house playing cards and stuff, and then the men are in the garage drinking Coronas and chilling. Never ever have men been asked to do feminine stuff as much as we do now. I go to other cultures and I'm like, wait a minute, why is it at a Vietnamese guy's house it's different than a black person?
I want to make it quick. Wait, go ahead. Solution.
Yeah, taking some time out. So in a heated argument, you're gonna do what's wired to your typical of your gender, your race. I'm sorry, your sex. But if you take some time out, maybe even if you need to write things down, you may be able to understand both perspectives.
Okay, and then me, I would say, women need to realize that they can fully emote in society and in relationships. Men can't, and that's so. It's either you establish with your significant other that you guys can both emote, or you both have to rein it in. Because it can't be like it is right now, where women have all the right and advantage to emote and men can't. That's my solution. Talk to your significant other and say, hey, look, if you're going to get emotionally crazy, I should be able to squash it with logic. If you're going to come at me crazy in an argument, I should be able to say, woman, think about this logically. Or we both rein it in. You can't have one doing one without the other.
There needs to be boundaries regardless, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Ghost, what was your question?
I was saying that I've been in scenarios where women have been in a position of power, yeah, like a manager or line manager or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've made, let's say they enforce, they say it's okay, something's okay by them one day, but then a few days later, they go crazy about the same thing that they said okay about, and they've lost the plot. And because they've changed their stance, and what I've learned, a lot of women sometimes make decisions based on how they feel at that very given moment in time. So the problem is then,
like being a single mother by choice. Go ahead.
The question I was just basically saying is, how do you hold a woman who does that accountable if she's in a position of power, because she's wired to make a decision based on how she feels at that moment in time, which can fluctuate drastically in a short space of time. So then therefore there's inconsistencies with decision making. So how do you hold someone like that accountable?
So here's the thing, that's a tough one, because consequences are less severe for women than men.
That's
always.
What I was gonna say. Yeah,
and also
the glass basement. The glass basement.
The I don't know if you know this, Ghost, but I did a video early on when I finally started putting videos on here, and one of the University of California did a study, and they showed that 50% of women don't mind what sex their boss is, and then like 52% of men. But 48% of women prefer having a male boss over a female boss, almost half. And it's like 27% of men or whatever. But more women prefer having a male boss than a female boss. And a lot of the complaints were exactly what you're talking about. Like,
or
women.
And I noticed it in feminine men bosses as well. So it's like a feminine trait, basically. In a nutshell, because I've seen certain men that are a little bit on the feminine side, like acting like that as well, and sometimes spiteful, bitchy, like making decisions based on So
what's that,
crazy,
Naomi?
I said there's so many men out there like that nowadays, that like I listen to them and they bitch more than women do, and I'm like,
It's feminist's fault. It's Gloria Steinem's fault. You know
I'm
what I'm
literally
saying?
sat there like listening, like sat in between them all bitching, and I'm like, I thought I was sat with a group of men. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Seriously. Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. When
Well, go
I
ahead.
remember I went to my best friend. His ex-wife was was Korean. And I went over there, and all the guys were in the garage, playing cards, rolling dice, or whatever Korean stuff that they were doing, drinking beers. And all the women were on the inside doing women stuff, and all the guys would just grunt and fart and all the stuff that men do, and all the women were inside talking trash about the men, but like they weren't expecting each other to act the same. I think that that's why men in those communities can be men and then women can be women. And when they decide to come together, they understand that it's a different type of relationship. But modern women expect to have the same relationship with their husband, boyfriend, fiance as they do with their girlfriends. And someone may make that square that circle. I don't understand, So, yeah.
Goes. I don't see what the solution is, because women are gonna get, and I don't think that women. Okay, okay. I'm just gonna try. Put it this way: we're just gonna have to see how it plays out, because I still think that women are seen as more moral. Men have been so corrupt in positions of power that women would never do that. In the next 15, 20 years, we're going to see a lot of corrupt women around in
Yep.
politics and corporations, all this stuff. We're just going to have to learn that women can be just as bad, if not worse,
Can I
than
just say,
men in these positions. Because people honestly think, oh yeah, if a woman was the boss, things wouldn't be that way. Yeah,
Hillary
probably it
Clinton,
would.
Kamala Harris.
What's that, Naomi?
no, I was gonna say a lot of them will be. No, it's too controversial. I'll keep that to myself. I don't want to get canceled out here just
I
yet.
know our first stream we're gonna get canceled, but we're coming up on 2 hours and 36 minutes. I told them I keep her for 2 hours. So I'm going to close out the show a little bit. So we're gonna, if you guys, since you participated, shout out your social media. Goes, if you want to start, show tell us what your platform's about. Shout out your social media. Then we're gonna go to AJ, and then we can go to Naomi, and then I'll go last. Ghost, are you there?
He's
Uh-oh.
gone ghost.
The
Quite literally.
power of the mute button.
He's gone ghost, quite literally.
Okay. Well, AJ, go ahead.
Yeah, so my name is AJ. My channel is AJ's Rants Reactions. It's a Red Pill channel. I also like to check out pop culture stuff, so check me out. My biggest topic so far is the M2 in the workplace. That's something that I'm passionate about. That men are ignoring women in the workplace, and women are going to HR. But yeah, so just a red pill guy, a red pill channel that's blowing up, and yeah, I'd appreciate everyone's support.
Okay. Ghostwriters at Ghostwriter, GHOST at Ghost the Writer. So GHOSTTHEWRITA on Instagram. So give him a follow, and then Naomi, shout yourself out, please.
So on Instagram, I'm N_Alexander87, and my YouTube is I Know Me Naomi. And yeah, I just like discussing, communicating, and being able to have conversations where I get different perspectives and deeper understanding of how people work. And so that's what I'm about. And there's a bit of spiritual Guardians of the Galaxy stuff sprinkled in there too.
That's the best part. Let me see. So, I really appreciate everyone for being here, especially in the chat. I'm gonna do some research for maybe another show that we can do some reactions to, because I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and it's really good to have a balance back and forth of the energy versus my policy, because I'm one of those hardcore stats policy type of people. But it's good to have someone that's can look at it from a different angle. Naomi's one of the most based women I've had the pleasure to meet. So thank you, Naomi. Hopefully we can do this again. And thank you, everyone. And I will talk to you guys next time.
Bye.